the much anticipated 10:30 a.m. slot on Tuesday morning. We're a week advanced. We're now to the Final Four in all 7 classifications. We are looking forward to discussing these matchups with you. 1A through 7A, the Final Four. We've got a matchup in the North, and then we've got a matchup in the South in each classification. Obviously, those 2 winners will advance to the Jacksonville, Oxford area next week for the AHSAA Baseball State Finals. We are pumped to get started with this. This is Around the State, a Prep Baseball Alabama podcast. Just a couple of things that I want to talk about real quick. And this podcast would not be what it is without our subscribers and our followers and listeners and people that tune in to watch. I just have to. I did these totals last night when we previewed round 1, and this is between our Twitter, our Facebook, and our YouTube channel. We had 23,800 people that watched the podcast, just staggering numbers. And in round 2, we had 18,900 viewers, which again is just incredible. And then last week we had a total of 17,000 viewers. That's 14.2 thousand through Twitter, 2.3 thousand through Facebook, and then we had a little over 500 that watched it live on YouTube. So, man, we appreciate each and every one of you. It would not be fun without you, our audience. Man, we don't care who wins. We don't, ever want to be disrespectful towards oh, there they are. We don't ever want to be disrespectful to any team, any player in the state. And 99.9999999% of the people that we talk with, man, just love it. And we appreciate we appreciate you coming up and letting.
That's a small percentage that doesn't like it.
What's that?
It's a small percentage that doesn't like it.
Yeah, man. But that's the people that want to try to misconstrue our words and twist something where it sounds like maybe we're saying something bad about somebody. Man, we're not going to say anything bad about anybody here. We're just going to we're just going to throw this out there and talk about it. Man, all those Summerton Christian people checking in. That's that's what makes this fun. Austin, we've got 28 teams left. How many runner-ups how many area runner-ups do you think? You can't look now. How many area runner-ups you think are still alive out of those 28 teams?
I'm trying to jog my memory on who finished, because there are some teams that you would think have won, because there are some 2 teams from, you got Mars Hill and Red Bay, from the same area. Bob Jones, James Clemens, Central Phoenix City, Auburn.
Yep. Well, you just ruined part of my thunder, man.
Yeah. I'll go 8.
8. There are 6 area runner-ups that are still alive this week. And as you just mentioned, of those 6 runner-ups, 3 of them, we've got a rematch from an area regular season. So again, it's going to be exciting. We'll get to that in just a second. Not a good week for me picking last week. I'm going to be honest with you. Last week in 1A, I was 2-2. In 2A, or let me go back. In 1A, I was 2-2. In our bracket challenge, I'm tied for 6th with 60 points. In 2A, not real good in 2A. I was 1-3. I'm tied for 5th with 54 points in our bracket challenge. In 3A, I was 2-2. I'm first in 3A with 76 points in our bracket challenge. In 4A, I was 3-1. I'm in second place in the bracket challenge with 76 points. In 5A, I was 2-2. I'm in 6th place with 56 points.
You were 2-2 in 5A?
Am I cheating? Let me go look and see. Yeah, in 5A, I won Mobile Christian. I won Valley.
Oh, you picked Valley?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, okay.
And there's the pink right there. You can see Valley in pink right there. All right. Okay. All right. And then I lost Russellville. Yep. So I was 2-2 in 5A. I appreciate you keep calling me out though if you think I'm cheating. 5A, like I said, 2-2. Got 56 points. I'm in 6th place. In 6A, man, I've been struggling in 6A. I was 4-0 in 6A last week. I'm tied for fourth with 62 points in the bracket challenge. And in 7A, not a good week, 2-2. I've got 22 points, and I'm tied for fifth in 7A. So I'm not doing good in 7A at all. So I was 16-12 last week, coming off a 127-25 previously. So right now I am 143-37 as we head into the Final Four. So I anticipate that you probably made up some ground last week.
Yes. Hold on.
Uh-oh.
Let me. All right. In 1A, I went 3-1. I think the one loss was one that not many people expected. Coosa Christian over Appalachian. 2A, I was 1-3. 3A, I was 2-2. 4A, I was 4-0. 5A, I was 2-2. 6A, I was 3-1, and 7A, I was 3-1. Last week, I was 123-29. I went 18-10, so now I'm 141-39. You're 143-37, so that gap's down to 2 games.
Well, good. Let's see how that plays out. The last 2 weeks, the most important 2 weeks of the season. Austin, I didn't even give you a chance to talk, man. Everything good with you?
Yep. I was thinking about this before we got on. It seems like the Final Four series are like those are the best series, like in terms of intensity, because you're playing to make it to the state finals. When you're at the state finals, it's just kind of a different type of feel. But when you're playing to make it to the state finals, I don't know, it may just be me, but I feel like the Final Four series are the ones that tend to bring out the best crowds and be the most intense games because you're playing to make it to a state championship. And I know everybody wants to win a state championship, but just being in Oxford and the last 2 years, it's just been a different type of feel. So I think the Final Four series are they're fun to cover, and we're going to be out all week. So
starting today, that's correct. We got 3 guys out today, including you, Austin. We'll talk about that as we get to those matchups. But I agree with you because, reaching the state championship is not the ultimate goal, but getting there is huge, and knowing that you're going to be playing the last games of the season in that classification. Yeah, you're right. There's a lot going on at the final, in the Final Four series. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. Sardis buzzsaw. Wish I could watch all the games. Good luck to Alexander. Great ball club. Man, I'm going to tell you, and I said this from my personal Twitter when I was covering Alexandria and Sardis, man. I have a lot of respect for both of those high school programs because as I was watching it, and man, I'm telling you, it was intense. The last 3 innings of game 2, the Sardis people, every one of them stood up, and it made it even more difficult for me to get video. But you look at it, and it was high pressure, high intense moment. And I never heard something derogatory come out of one of the dugouts aimed or directed at the other team, man. I thought that was just awesome. That all of their energy was about their team. And man, we've talked about all year how good we thought Sardis was. And we've also talked about how good Alexandria is. That was
preseason 1 and 2.
That's right. Preseason 1. They ended up 1 and 2. Alexandria moved on, but we'll talk about that later. But you're right, Jason. Thanks for chiming in. But let's go ahead and get started in 1A.
Hold on 1 second.
Okay. All right. I'll go ahead and get us set up in 1A. In 1A, in the South, you've got number 3, Florala. They come in with a record of 24-1. They are the winners in Area 2 this year. Last week, they swept Brantley by scores of 6-2 and 2-0. They will be on the road this week at number 8, Sweetwater. Sweetwater, they were winners of Area 4. They come in with a record of 20-14. Last week, Sweetwater was able to defeat South Lamar, and that was one of those 1A series that we talked about that we were sort of split on. Sweetwater was able to defeat South Lamar in 3 games, ultimately pulling away in game 3 and won 19-9. I think they put a 12 spot on the board in the first inning, and that game was pretty much at that time. This one will get started tomorrow at 4:00. Man, This is a good one. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you that Florala has one loss all season, and that loss came to a team from Florida. So they have not been beat by a team in the state of Alabama. Going on the road at Sweetwater is going to be difficult. There's no doubt about it. Austin, you want to give us a rundown on some of the players from those teams?
Yeah, you mentioned that's Sweetwater game 3, 12 spot in the first inning. That was, and then they ended up winning 19-9. That was a weird box score. But yeah, we talked about it that South Lamar Sweetwater series is going to be a good one, and going to a game 3, obviously it was a good one. You look at kind of the performers for Sweetwater last week. Parker Townsend was 2 for 3 with a triple and 3 RBIs in game 1. Peyton Averett had a huge series, especially in their wins. Game 1, he had 2 doubles, and then in game 3, he was 3 for 4 with two doubles, a home run, and 7 RBIs.
Wow.
On the mound in game 1, Nate Norris threw 5 innings and gave up just 1 run. And then in game 3, to kind of in that big offensive onslaught, Nate Norris also had 2 RBIs. David Etheridge and Maddox Simpson are 2 more guys who had 2 RBIs. So kind of getting it done throughout their lineup, 1 through 9. And then you look at Florala. We've talked about the Wildcats all year long, with the Walsh brothers, Cody and Easton. You have Dalton Jackson, Noah Bryan, and those are kind of the guys who led the way last week for Florala in their sweep over Brantley. Game 1, Easton Walsh, who's the sophomore left-handed pitcher outfielder, went 6 innings, 2 hits, no runs, and 13 strikeouts against Brantley. And then at the plate, Cody Walsh was 2 for 3 with a double, and then came in the 7th and got all 3 outs, one of them being a strikeout. And then Jacob Lara added 2 RBIs at the plate. And then in game 2, Cody Walsh, who came in and closed out game 1, got the start, went 7 innings, 1 hit, 2 runs, and 13 strikeouts. His little brother Easton was 3 for 3 with a double and 3 RBIs. Noah Bryan, their shortstop, also had 2 RBIs as well. So Florala, they've been churning along all season long, just with those arms, and especially in Class 1A with Cody Walsh, who's apparently been low 90s on the mound, and then Easton Walsh is his little brother, more of a pitchability southpaw, being a sophomore, and then Dalton Jackson can throw some important innings as well. They seem to be a pretty balanced team in Class 1A in terms of offensive, ability to generate runs at a premium, and then those arms at the top of the rotation. But then you look at Sweetwater having the past 2 weeks getting big series wins over Leroy and South Lamar. But ultimately, I'm going to give the edge to the team that's been clicking all season long, Florala, the Wildcats. I think they have a legitimate chance to win it, but it's not going to be easy this week. They've been battle tested. You look at the last 2 teams that they played Millery and Brantley. They've, obviously being, I think, 24-1.
Yeah.
I'm going with the Wildcats to punch their ticket to the 1A state finals.
I'm going to do the same there with Florala. I do think that, going on the road, and again, Sweetwater is that notorious small school power this is regular stance for them. I mean, this is just what they do, making deep runs into the playoffs. They're used to being in the Final Four. They're used to being in the Elite Eights. They're used to being in the state finals. Obviously, neither one of us would be surprised if Sweetwater wins this, but I think Florala has just been that team in 1A that has just been consistent and churned along all year. It's hard to go against them. Again, have not lost to an in-state school this year. I'm not saying that they're not going to lose to an in-state school this year. Could very well happen this week. I mean, but I'm going to go with Florala. Again, their body of work throughout the year speaks for itself. So we'll both go with Florala to advance, but I think both of us are looking forward to this. 2 perennial powers going at it, but we're going to side with Florala.
Summerton Christian, stand up.
Let me go back. What's Summerton? It's time for Summerton Christian. Here we go. Summerton Christian, you've been waiting for this. I hope I don't make you mad, Summerton Christian. All right. No. I hope I don't make you mad. Don't turn on me. Don't turn on me, please. In our
little Lee Corso.
I'm just saying, please don't turn on me. All right. To my Summerton, the Summerton faithful. This one will get started on Wednesday at 1 o'clock. That's tomorrow. You've got Coosa Christian. Coosa Christian was right outside of our top 10. They come in with a record of 18-20. And again, that just lets you know the caliber of people they played, during the regular season. They get here last by defeating Appalachian. And let me tell you something. I remember when we saw this come across, I texted you and said Appalachian got swept. I mean, that was I'm not going to say it was a surprise that Coosa Christian won, but sweeping Appalachian, a team that I think was 24-4 or maybe 24-2. Coosa Christian swept them 2-1 and 9-7. Really two tightly contested games. Coosa Christian will be on the road this week at number 5 Summerton Christian. Coosa Christian, let me go back. They won Area 13. Summerton Christian won Area 11. Summerton Christian finished the season ranked number 5, and they but they have a record of 24-4 after. And this was another 1A series we had last week marked. Summerton Christian went on the road and defeated a really good Hackleburg team. They beat them 4-3 in 12 innings. I think that game lasted a little over 4 hours. And then in game 2, they were able to stretch that out, and they did beat Hackleburg 13-3 to advance. But this was a team I saw 2 weeks ago. Really liked Summerton Christian. Austin, you want to give us the rundown on those guys? How they got here last week?
Yeah. We talked about last week. Those we kind of highlighted Hackleburg and Summerton Christian, both of those pitching staffs, and seemed like a stalemate, especially in game 1. Looked like Summerton Christian was able to take control in game 2, but game 1 certainly lived up to the hype, it seemed. But looking at Summerton Christian, they're obviously led by Landon Shoemate. He's their ace on the mound, a UAB recruit. Throws game 1 for them. Last week he went 7 innings, gave up 4 hits, 2 runs, and 9 strikeouts. And then right behind him, he talked about going 12 innings. Austin Hubbard, a left-handed pitcher outfielder, went the rest of the way. Went 5 innings, 4 hits, no earned runs, and punched out 8. Offensively, outfielder Rusty McDonald was 2 for 4 with an RBI and 2 walks. Reed Cornelius also had an RBI. And then shortstop Caden Parrish had the go-ahead RBI single on the top of the 12th to kind of push them across the finish line in game 1. In game 2, the 8th grader that you saw, who was very impressive, was good again. Colton Glass, left-handed pitcher, went 5 2/3, gave up 2 hits, gave up 3 runs, but none of them were earned, and punched out 8. Offensively, Landon Shoemate, after a strong outing in game 1, was 4 for 5 in game 2 with 2 doubles, a home run, and 4 RBIs. Infielder Jonah Marshall also had 3 RBIs, and that kind of paced them offensively to behind the efforts of Shoemate with those 4 RBIs and Marshall with 3 RBIs to allow them to kind of cruise to victory in game 2 and sweep that series. For Coosa Christian last week, 2 really close games, but in game 1, John Justice was kind of the star on the mound. He went 5 innings, gave up 1 hit, no earned runs, walked 1, and struck out 11. Ren Gladden, an outfielder for them, was 1 for 2 with a double and an RBI. And then behind Justice on the mound, right-handed pitcher, shortstop Brody Nelson went 2 innings, 2 hits, no runs, and 1 strikeout. And I think you have the score. Wasn't first game of Coosa Christian and Appalachian like a low-scoring game, like 2-1 or something?
It was 2-1. Yes, it was. Yeah.
So Ren Gladden had that big RBI, and then Justice and Nelson got it done on the mound. In game 2, a little bit more of a different story. I think they won 9-7. Shortstop right-handed pitcher Brody Nelson was 2 for 4 with 3 RBIs. Cleet Bryant was 2 for 4 with 3 RBIs as well. And then you have guys like Brian Johnson and Dylan Edwards who also drove in a run. And then outfielder right-handed pitcher Ren Gladden also had an RBI at the plate, and then kind of shut things down. I think on the back end on the mound went 2 1/3 and gave up just 2 earned runs and allow his offense to do most of the work on the other side. Man, we talked about we had Coosa Christian. When we do our rankings in 1A every week, they were below 500 for pretty much the majority of the season. But I remember looking at who they had played. Their strength of schedule was very impressive. These are kind of a tale of 2 different teams. Coosa Christian, obviously, and not saying Summerton Christian has it, but Coosa Christian's played a really difficult schedule with higher classification teams and hopes to get prepared for the playoffs. And it seems to have worked with them being in the Final Four. And then Summerton Christian has a great record, 24-4, and seem to be churning right along in Class 1A. Don't think they've lost in the playoffs yet. But ultimately, I'm going to side with Summerton Christian. Landon Shoemate on the mound. I mean, that's tough. I mean, like the arms that Farrella has. Landon Shoemate could pitch at any classification, in any classification in Alabama and have success, let alone in Class 1A. And then the left-handed pitcher, Colton Glass. You told me you were very high on him, could really pitch. And then, looking at box scores, it looks like their offense has gotten contributions from a bunch of different guys. So I'm going to side with the Eagles. I'm going to go Summerton Christian. Going to be a great series.
Man, my Summerton Christian people. I expect this one to be a low-scoring series. Coosa Christian's they're gonna run out some quality arms as well, and no need to rehash what Austin said about the Summerton Christian arms. You mentioned Colton Glass. I'm telling you, the pitch from him to me that is the separator is that breaking ball. I mean, I don't know if it was true 12-6 depth, but it was almost true 12-6 shape. Man, just late bite with that fastball that typical left-hand arm side action out of the hand. But Coosa Christian has again, that schedule has prepared them. We've talked about it all year long. It doesn't matter what your record is once the playoffs begin, and it's never more true than in this situation with Coosa Christian punching their ticket to the Final Four. Man, this one gets started at 1:00 tomorrow. Give me Summerton Christian. I'm going to take Summerton Christian to advance to the Final Four. I expect this. I don't think either or all three. I don't expect any of the games to be blowouts. I don't expect any 9-8 games. I think these are 3-1, 4-2 type games. But I'm going to go with Summerton Christian. I remember when I saw them 2 weeks ago, and I texted you and I said, this team's got a chance. And here they are. They're on the cusp of getting to that final round. But it's not going to be easy. I can assure you that. They're facing a really impressive Coosa Christian team that has been as hot as anybody in the playoffs. But I'm going to take Summerton Christian to advance. So moving right into 2A. In 2A, we've got one of our runner-ups here. You've got Ayrton. Ayrton, they were runner-up to GW Long in area 4. They come in with a record of 26 wins, 8 losses, and a tie. Last week, Ayrton defeated Reeltown 7-1 and 4-2. That was a series that we talked in depth about last week. They will be on the road. Number 5, Ayrton will be on the road at Bayshore Christian. And Bayshore Christian, they hovered around that 500 mark all year long. They finished the season ranked right outside of our top 10. They were winners of Area 1 down in that Mobile area. They have run I think when the playoffs started, their record was maybe 12-12, or 12-12. I think they're 18-13 right now. They've been really, really hot. This series will get started Thursday at 1. Bayshore Christian. Man, this is 2 weeks ago they defeated GW Long, perennial power last week. Bayshore Christian was on the road at Pike Liberal and was able to defeat Pike Liberal in 3 games. Pike Liberal, I believe, was our number 2 ranked team, a team that we talked all year about how good they were.
We talk about how good baseball is in the Wiregrass area, especially in 2A. Bayshore Christian has run the gauntlet last 2 weeks.
I know, and I talked to one of their parents just yesterday from Bayshore Christian, and he was just like, man, we're happy to be here. And man, I mean, really, it's about just getting hot at the right time. And Bayshore Christian is hot at the right time. Make no mistake about it. They've had a difficult gauntlet to get here, as you mentioned, and they've done it. You want to take a look at some of those players from last week from both teams, Austin?
Yeah, we'll start with Ayrton, the defending Class 2A state champs, as we got a back-to-back comment for Ayrton.
I like it.
In game 1 last week, Dalton Murphy, their catcher, had a hit, had 2 RBIs. Lawson Legier was 3 for 4 with an RBI. Caden Collier was 0 for 0 with 4 walks, scored 3 times in the leadoff spot. Miles Tyler, another outfielder, was 2 for 3 with an RBI. And then on the mound, Ian Sin went seven innings pitched, gave up 5 hits, no earned runs, and 6 walks. And then in game 2, with Reeltown throwing Jamarcus, I think Jamarcus Smith had, I think he had 11 or 12 strikeouts and only threw 5 innings because of that pitch count, having so many strikeouts. But Ayrton was able to muster up some offense against them.
And we said that last week, that Ayrton's the type of team that can foul off and extend at bats and get that pitch count up, and that's exactly what they did.
Yeah, I mean, he had 12 strikeouts. I mean,
right.
So that's at least 36 pitches on. I mean, it's tough for a freshman that's going to strike out a lot of people to throw complete games. But for Ayrton in game 2, Caden Collier was 2 for 3 with an RBI and another walk. So you look at his series, he reached base in 7 out of 8 plate appearances in the leadoff spot. Once again in game 2, outfielder Miles Tyler was 1 for 2 with the triple and 2 runs. Outfielder Addison Sin was 1 for 2 with an RBI and a walk. Lawson Legier added an RBI again. And then on the mound, pitcher Austin Stevens went 7 innings, gave up 4 hits, no earned runs, and struck out 7. So Ayrton's got a good mix of players back from last year's team that won the state championship. Obviously, you lose, Connor Thrash, who was a big piece for them last year, but they certainly have enough talent to and they proved that all year long. They have enough talent to repeat, and here they are once again in the Final Four. Looking at Bayshore Christian, they seem to really be led by Jack Malone, who seems to really do it all for the Eagles. In game 1 last week against Pike Liberal Arts in their game 1 win, Jack went 7 innings, gave up 6 hits, no earned runs, and 4 strikeouts at the plate. He was also 2 for 3 with a home run and 2 RBIs. Infielder Jace Jones was also 2 for 4 with a run. Cody Parker added 2 RBIs, and then shortstop Blake Strickland was 1 for 3 with an RBI and a walk. They ended up getting beat in game 2, and then in game 3, Bayshore Christian was led by Brooks Jones, who went 2 for 3 with 3 RBIs. Jack Malone was 2 for 2 once again with an RBI and 2 walks. And then Jace Jones was 2 for 3 with 2 runs. Cody Parker had an RBI single. And then on the mound, Braden Prius went 7 innings, gave up 6 hits, no earned runs, and 4 strikeouts. And, to be able to get that from a game 3 starter where you go into a game 3 and you're thinking, man, what do I do? I mean, if having to exhaust all your options out of the bullpen, when you're able to get one guy who's able to go out and give you 7 strong innings, especially against Pike Liberal, that's, very valuable for a pitching staff. And, this is another series that could very well be pushed to 3 games, and Bayshore Christian's shown that they can win in game 3. And they've also shown that they can sweep really good teams. They swept GW Long at GW Long. So Bayshore Christian's battle tested. They're playing as good as anybody right now. And this is going to be a big-time heavyweight matchup between Bayshore Christian, who was a consistent 1A power, won multiple state championships over the past decade, and then Ayrton, last year's 2A state champ.
Let it be known, there's 3 picks that I haven't made yet, and this is one of them.
Yeah. I'm going Ayrton. I'm going to go Purple Cats. That's probably music to the Bayshore Christian fans' ears because I picked against them the last 3 weeks, but take it and run with it because you've proven me wrong. But I'm going to go with Ayrton here. I just think they over the past few years they've proven that they know how to win late in the playoffs. They finally got over that hump last year against GW Long and was able to advance to the state finals when they won. Give me Ayrton once again to make it to the state finals in Class 2A.
You're going to make it tough on me, man, because I'm not sure which way I want to go. You mentioned it. These are both perennial powers. These are both teams that are used to this. I think you've got a team that's been there all year long in Ayrton. We've had them ranked in the top 5 all year. And then you've got a team that has just gotten hot at the right time. And we've talked about that. We said they hovered around 500 all year. they're just playing. They're just playing well right now, and they expect to win. Ayrton expects to win. I'm torn whether to go with who I think might be the better team or who I think's the hot hand right now. I'm gonna go with give me Bayshore Christian. I'm gonna mark that on my sheet right now. I'm gonna go Bayshore Christian here. Again, not comfortable with it. Not comfortable with it. I know my man Landon Tyler is not gonna like that pick, but man, it's just and listen here, Landon. I'm not gonna be completely surprised if Ayrton doesn't go back to back. I mean, I'm not trying to cover myself both ways here, but Bayshore Christian is just very hot right now. That game 3 start, that's you get to game 3, it's usually a 10-8 game, a 12-10 game due to pitching depth, and that just says a lot. And this may be the first time I've gone with Bayshore Christian the entire playoffs. I'm not sure.
They ain't gonna be happy with you.
I've been with Ayrton all year in the playoffs, but I'm gonna go with the hot hand here. Give me Bayshore in an upset, I guess you can say. So that'll get us through the South part. Yes, that was the South part. Bayshore Christian is from Mobile. But we'll move to the North now. And this is one of the rematches of an area winner versus an area runner-up. You've got Red Bay, as mentioned.
There he is.
Already?
Red Bay has entered the chat.
Red Bay has entered the chat. Let it be known that Adam McGee told us in round one, Red Bay is a sleeper. And Adam, you are 100% right. We give our props to you. Kudos to you for calling that out. Man, Austin and I were talking about you just the other day, man. That's awesome. And congratulations to Red Bay. I know that they want another shot at Mars Hill, and they're going to get it in the Final Four. As I said, Red Bay finished runner-up in Area 16. They finished the top 10 right outside of our list of top 10 teams. They have a 21-7 record after winning a 3-game series against Whitesburg Christian last week that we were very high on, and even Adam agreed with us. They had a tall task last week. They lost game 1 2-0 to Luke Holbrook. They came back and won game 2 3-0. And then they were able to win game 3 8-2. That's how they punched their ticket to the Final Four. As we've already mentioned, this is a rematch of Area 16 foes. They will be at Mars Hill. Mars Hill won Area 16. Mars Hill comes in with a record of 25-10. And man, you talk about impressive. Mars Hill goes on the road last week and beats Vincent in a 2 out of 3 series. They lost game 1, came back and won game 2 to force a game 3. I think they lost game 1 like 5-4.
They going up against Aiden Poe. Nobody's been able to have success against him this year. They handled him pretty well. I mean, they were put some good swings on it, and then they got to the bottom of the 7th. I think they were down 2 or 3. They were chipping away. Jackson Pogue, who, let me pull up his comment, had a huge with a runner on tying run on first, hit a missile to center field for a single. He got past the center fielder. Runner from first kept running and was able to tie it up. But then in the bottom half, Vincent loaded the bases and Landon Archer hit a walk-off double to right field.
Man, what about that defensive clip you got from that series, man?
Yeah, I know. That
was awesome. But again, Mars Hill won 2 of 3 last week against Vincent. This one will get started on Thursday at 4:30. Man, this is, again, these two teams need no introduction to one another. Austin, you want to give us a rundown here?
Yeah, we'll start with Red Bay. Last week, you said, obviously getting beat, by Whitesburg Christian in that first game by Luke Holbrook. We talked about Luke Holbrook and how good he is on the mound. Red Bay was able to respond and get wins in games 2 and 3. Looking at game 2, I think it was a 3-0 win on the mound. Their right-handed pitcher, shortstop Tyler Reynolds, went 6 1/3, gave up 1 hit, no runs, and punched out 8. at the plate. He was also 1 for 2 with an RBI and a walk. And then right behind him, outfielder pitcher Eli Ferris came on in the 7th and got the last 2 outs, including a strikeout. He also added an RBI at the plate. And then first baseman Reed Hamilton had a single, scored 1 time, and walked twice. Then in Game 3, it was pretty much all Aiden Pruitt, I think, hitting towards the bottom of their lineup. And on the mound, he went another complete game effort in Game 3. Aiden Pruitt went 7 innings, gave up 4 hits, 2 runs, and then at the plate, hitting towards the bottom of their order, was 1 for 3 with the home run and 2 RBIs. Shortstop Tyler Reynolds also was 1 for 3 with 2 RBIs and 2 walks, and then Landon Louie, an outfielder, was 1 for 2 with an RBI, 2 walks, and 2 runs scored. Looking at Mars Hill last week, obviously got beat, like I just said, in Game 1 to Vincent, but turned around in Game 2 and won 6-4. Shortstop Aiden Kennedy, their 3-hole hitter, was 1 for 3 with a double, an RBI, and a walk. Jackson Pogue and Jack Irby both had RBIs on the mound.
Hey, I've got to throw this in. Jack Irby, man. I coached him years ago up at the USA Trials in North Carolina. Long time ago, man. So I had to throw that in there.
On the mound in Game 2, right-handed pitcher, outfielder Brooks Campbell, a freshman who also came in relief in the 7th in Game 1. He got the start in Game 2, went 4 1/3, gave up 3 hits and just 1 earned run, and struck out 4. He also had an RBI. He was the person who hit that ball on the good play, so that's where that RBI came from. Then right behind him, right-handed pitcher, third baseman Cam Isbell, went 2 2/3, gave up 1 hit, no earned runs, and struck out 4. And man, have you seen Marcel play? No,
but here's what you told me. Cam Isbell is a physical dude.
He's good, yeah. I was very impressed with him at the plate. And then in Game 3 for the Panthers, outfielder Jackson Pogue had a big home run. I think it was a 2-run homer. Jay Dobbs, their leadoff hitter outfielder, man, that dude looks like a hard-nosed throwback kind of player. He had a hit, an RBI, and a walk. And then first baseman Oakley Bevis was 2 for 3 with a double and 2 RBIs. And then another Game 3 start where we had a complete game. Jack Irby went 7 innings, 4 hits, no earned runs, and struck out 3.
He's got some older brothers that pitched at Sanford and Alabama, I believe it was. So it's in the bloodlines in that family.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I'm going to go Mars Hill. Seeing Vincent last week, I thought Vincent was not a shoe-in, but I thought Vincent had a real chance to win it. Just the way that their pitching stacks up, playing at home, Mars Hill being able to go on the road in a hostile environment, and especially losing Game 1 to the number 1 team in the state, being able to turn around and, with the series on the line, win Games 2 and Games 3, I thought was very impressive. At home this week against Red Bay, a big rivalry. Obviously, these teams know each other. Mars Hill was able to win that series earlier in April. Give me the Panthers of Mars Hill Bible to win once again and punch their ticket to the 2A state finals.
Can you remind me who I picked to win 2A at the beginning of the season?
Mars Hill.
I picked Mars Hill at the beginning of the season, and I've got to ride with them. I've got to go Mars Hill. Again, and I picked against Mars Hill last week. That was impressive to go on the road. And as you mentioned, lose Game 1 and come back, rebound and win the next 2. As Adam has told us forever, do not sleep on Red Bay. As you can see there, they've only got 1 senior, so they're going to be around for years to come. There's no doubt about that. I went back and looked at their area series. They only played 2 games. Mars Hill won the first game 5-0. They were pretty much in control that entire game. And then in Game 2 of their series, Mars Hill did win 8-1, but that game was 1-1 going to the 5th. I think Mars Hill scored like 3 in the bottom of the 5th and 4 in the bottom of the 6th to give us that 8-1 final. So, I mean, these 2 teams have played 2, well-contested contests. I like Mars Hill here. Again, last week tells me all I need to know about Mars Hill. Red Bay, has notorious, this week in, week out right now, they've been playing solid baseball. I'm going to go Mars Hill this week with you to advance to the Final Four. But again, this should be a good one. I'm sure tensions will be high as it is two area rivals going at it again. So that'll get us wrapped up in 2A, which will lead us. Go ahead.
Hartsville in the house.
Hartsville in the house. You have not missed 6A. We are going into 3A. We'll be at 6A here in just a little bit. So 6A will be up here just a little bit. Moving into 3A. Let's take a look at 3A. In 3A, our first matchup. This is the matchup that's in the southern part of the state. You've got Thomasville. They won Area 5 this year. They finished the season ranked number 3. They come in with a 28-4 record. Last week, Thomasville swept Opp, and we had spent a lot of our podcasts last couple weeks talking about Opp. Thomasville won 5-3 and 7-1. They only gave up 3 runs and 1 run. That tells you enough about Thomasville. Again, they're 28-4. This week, they are on the road at number 6 Providence Christian. Providence Christian, they won Area 3. They come in with a record of 23-9, and they swept Prattville Christian last week. And this is another one that sort of raised my eyebrows because, number 1, I picked Prattville Christian. I'm going to tell you that. Number 2, I'm not saying that I was shocked that Providence Christian swept them, but by the way they did was what was a little bit shocking. Providence Christian won 11-3 in game 1, and then they won game 2, 3-1. So that was that first game, they really put it on a quality Prattville Christian team. This one will get started later today at 5:00. We do plan to have someone at that game to cover this because this is a big one here in 3A. Game 2. I'm sorry.
I said, yeah, 100%.
Okay. Yep. And this is one that this is my second one that I still have not made a pick on. So I'm going to listen to you, and then I'm gonna make my pick over the next 2 or 3 minutes. But give us the rundown on how they got here. Some of the players that stood out last week.
Yeah, I'm excited to see Thomasville get some stuff out of Thomasville because they've run the gauntlet in 3A this year. They're 28-4. They're number 3 in 3A.
Hey, do you see what? I'm sorry. Do you see what Adam said? I'm sorry. Put that up there. Adam says, Mars Hill isn't easy to match up with. It's a win-win for Red Bay. You either put them out yourself or they go to Oxford and go to 3A next year. And what he's talking about is that private school multiplier there, or not, or whatever it's called, competitive balance. That's right. So, yeah. So that is a win-win for Adam. He's up to date on his stuff, man. I like it. Sorry to interrupt, Austin.
Yeah. Thomasville has run the gauntlet in 3A all year long. They're 28-4. Providence Christian, though, has been right behind them, 23-9. Excited to see how this series shapes out. Last week, both of these teams swept. Like you said, we'll start with Thomasville in game 1. I believe there's 2 D Bryants. I believe Diego Bryant is the one that I'm talking about here. The third baseman hits in the 3 or 4 hole for Thomasville, but Diego was 1 for 2. Had a big 3-run bomb in their first game. Infielder Ace Thompson was 1 for 2 with an RBI. Then on the mound, Bo Bryant, a senior who we've heard a lot about. Think he's committed to West Alabama. Apparently has a big fastball. He's also a quarterback for Thomasville. Last week, he went 6 2/3, gave up just 1 hit, 3 runs, but struck out 10 hitters. In game 2 for Thomasville, Dallas Bryant, who is the other D Bryant, think I've got him right. He went 1 for 4 with 2 RBIs. First baseman Charlie Hill was also 2 for 4 with a triple and an RBI. And then on the mound, first base right-handed pitcher Charles Morris seemed to do it all for Thomasville and wrap up that series. On the mound, he went 7 innings, gave up 1 hit, 1 run, and struck out 10. He also added an RBI double at the plate. And then catcher Luke Brazel went 2 for 3 with an RBI. Looking at Providence Christian last week in game 1, they really came out hot, swinging in. I think they had 13 or 14 hits in game 1 against a pitching staff that we talked about last week, who we thought had a lot of depth, had a lot of quality arms. Providence Christian came out really swinging it. Infielder C.J. Sullivan was 3 for 4 with a double and an RBI. Third baseman Brooks Kennedy, a sophomore, was 2 for 2. Tyler Sharp was 2 for 3 with a double and 3 RBIs. David McClurkin also 3 for 4 with a double and 2 RBIs. Roman Banner also was 3 for 4 with a double and an RBI with 2 RBIs. Auburn Tigers says he's a left-handed pitcher. I think he's talking about Morris.
Okay.
And then on the mound, left-handed pitcher, outfielder Win Brock. Went 7 innings, gave up 2 hits, no earned runs, struck out 6. And then at the plate, he was 2 for 4. I think he was 80-82 on the mound, really mixing his pitch as well. And then in game 2, third baseman, right-handed pitcher Brooks Kennedy, that sophomore. Brooks went 5 2/3, gave up 5 hits, 1 run, struck out 2. Then at the plate, he was 1 for 3 with an RBI. Chance Smith, their shortstop, was also 1 for 3 with an RBI. And then Chapel Stickler hitting, I think, in the 2-hole for them. Went 2 for 3 with a run. I just named all those names, but there's one name that we didn't mention, and they were still able to sweep Prattville Christian, and that name is Porter Dykes. Not saying he didn't have a great series, just the other guys were able to carry most of the weight. So Providence Christian is dangerous. Porter Dykes, obviously, going to Chipola, two-way talent. Has a big fastball on the mound. I think he's still getting back healthy. I think he threw game 3 against New Brockton last week or 2 weeks ago. So he's able to throw, and their pitching staff really sets up well with him back healthy, and they're certainly swinging it. I'm going Providence Christian. I think I was going to go Thomasville all week long. Just thinking about this matchup. I'm going to go Providence Christian. Last week I picked Prattville Christian. Providence swept them with ease on the road. Providence Christian, man, they've I remember looking at their schedule in the regular season. They played some bigger classification teams, beaten some bigger classification teams. I'm going to go Providence Christian here, at home too. Give me Providence Christian.
Man. I don't know, man. I'm sitting here. Again, this is the second of my 2 picks that I have not made yet. Second of 3 picks that I haven't made yet. I was leaning Providence Christian. And for those of you out there following, we don't get together. I have no clue who Austin's picking. I've been leaning Providence Christian all week, but I'm not so sure. I'm not going to swap to Thomasville here. Again, Providence Christian, impressive as it can be last week in their sweep over Prattville Christian. Thomasville has continued to just churn right along all year, being a quality op team, as we said last week. I'm going to go with Thomasville here. This is one we're going to split. This is one that probably is deserving of a split. Honestly, I think this can go either way. I do think the Providence Christian home field advantage may play a part here. But I just, Bo Bryant on the mound in game 1, you got to like your chances there if you're Thomasville. But Providence Christian, those offensive numbers that you just talked about, 2 for 4, 3 for 4 here and there, that's pretty impressive. But I'm going to go Thomasville here by the slightest margin and pick them to advance to the state finals next week. That'll take us to the north side of the bracket in 3A, where we have yet another top 10 matchup here. This one will get started today at 4:30. We will have someone there at this game. You've got the Area 11 winners. That's the 8th ranked Westbrook Christian. They come in with a record of 22-11. Last week, Westbrook Christian was pushed to 3 games. You were there for that series. You saw the first 2 games. They won the first game.
Have you ever been to Westbrook Christian?
Never.
Those facilities are awesome. Their school looks like it's been, I don't know, renovated or newly built, and they've got a nice baseball facility too.
Yeah, that's I'm sure they did with and that's a storied baseball program, no doubt.
They've got indoor facilities. You can see like it looks like the real deal.
Yeah. And, and they're giving their fans what they want. They're in the Final Four again. Westbrook Christian, as I said, comes in at 22-11 after winning that 3-game set with Fayette County last week. They will be on the road at our number 1 ranked team, the Tigers of Lauderdale County. Lauderdale County comes in at 25-4. And one of the big series last week in 3A that we were looking for was that Lauderdale and Gordo series. And man, I'm sure not everybody, but what about that flyover, man, at Gordo?
That was awesome.
That was awesome. And it says a lot. Go ahead.
That embodied small town baseball in Alabama.
No doubt. We even had some of our prep baseball people reach out to us about that, man. Send us direct message. It's awesome. But man, I'll be honest with you. Let's be honest, that two-headed monster at Lauderdale County of Miles Edwards and Skylar Tucker, they're good. I saw Edwards in person. Our guy's gonna see Skylar Tucker today, but to go on the road and shut out Gordo twice in that situation, woo, man, that is really, really impressive. And I go back to the week before when I saw Lauderdale County play Plainview. One of the Plainview parents, I was talking to him, a guy that we've known for a couple of years. I was talking about somebody's 1-2 punch. He said, well, speaking of 1-2 punch, look at this. And he was right. I mean, to shut out Gordo twice, man, because that was a game. I picked Lauderdale County. I think you may have gone Gordo.
I picked Gordo. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was the premier matchup in 3A. And for them to go shut them out twice, man, whew, that's impressive. Give us a little bit more in-depth on both of these teams' players from last week.
Yeah, Westbrook Christian, they've got a 1 through 9. There's really no easy outs for them. And at the top, and a guy who we're pretty familiar with, infielder Brody Johnson. That kid is a baller. He is a tough. I mean, he embodies what a leadoff hitter should be from the left side. Has incredible feel for the barrel. Was 2 for 3 in game 1 with 2 runs and a walk, but even his outs were, he took quality at bats. His outs were loud. Was really impressed with him. He's playing second base for them. Outfielder Brady Carden was 3 for 4 with 2 RBIs in game 1 as well. Shortstop Brody Blevins, a freshman, starting at shortstop as a freshman, was 3 for 4 with an RBI. Was really impressed with him. And then on the mound, right-handed pitcher Dylan Rainey, guy who we've seen a good amount over the past couple of summers. Probably didn't have his best outing of the year, but showed, even though he didn't necessarily have his A stuff, was still able to fight against a tough Fayette County lineup. He ended up going into the 6th, went 5 2/3, gave up 7 hits, 4 runs, and 4 strikeouts. At the plate, he was 1 for 2 with 2 RBIs, and in I think it was the bottom of the 6th that had the big go-ahead single to right field, RBI single that gave Westbrook Christian the lead. Got beat in game 2. Braden Key kind of didn't get off to a great start on the mound. He ended up kind of settling in, but at that time, Fayette County had scored too many runs, and Fayette County won that game. And then in game 3,
wow, what a game, man!
I know. I wasn't there, but was following on Game Changer. Yeah. I think Fayette County went into the bottom of the 7th, winning 8-6, and bottom of the 7th in game 3, man, those are the hardest 3 outs to get. You get a infield single, a walk, just getting guys on, putting pressure, and that's what Westbrook Christian was able to do. But looking at some of the top performers from game 3, Brody Blevins at shortstop again was 1 for 3 with a home run. Catcher Dylan Rainey in the 3-hole was 1 for 3 with 3 RBIs. Outfielder right-handed pitcher Brady Carden was 2 for 3 with 3 RBIs. And then up with, I want to say there were 2 outs. I may be wrong, but with the bases loaded, down 8-6 in the bottom of the 7th, Cam Carden, who was already 2 for 3, came up and hit a walk-off, bases clearing, 3 RBI double in the bottom of the 7th to walk it off for Westbrook Christian. Seeing video of that was awesome, and that's what playoff baseball is all about. Fayette County, man, what a playoff run, getting to the Elite Eight, beating some big time teams. Great season for them. That was a well played series, but a very exciting one the way that it ended for Westbrook Christian. Looking at Lauderdale County last week, not outside of the pitchers, not many offensive stats being I was at I forget what game it was, but man, those games were like I was in the third or fourth inning in my first game, and I got a final 1-0, and then we're about to start game two, and then the game two in Lauderdale County Gordo had already finished. So those games flew by with those two pitchers that you talked about. And game one for Lauderdale County, left-handed pitcher Skylar Tucker. We've talked about him. Went 7 innings, complete game, gave up 2 hits, no runs, and struck out 7. He also hit a home run at the plate. Outfielder Micah Christensen, who's a running back commit, going to where?
UNA. And I have to say this. I said it last week. I would hate to try to tackle that dude, man.
Yeah.
He looks like one big muscle. I mean, he is put together. But yeah, he's been swinging the bat for him well lately.
Yeah, he was 2 for 3 with a double and an RBI in game one last week. Outfielder Justin Slayton, I think in the leadoff spot for them, was 1 for 4 with an RBI. In game two for Lauderdale County, Miles Edwards, who's headed to Wallace Hansville, a senior, went 7 innings, gave up 1 hit, no runs, and 5 strikeouts. At the plate, he was 2 for 3 with a double. And then Jeremiah Hutchins, an outfielder, had an RBI. And then Skylar Tucker, playing first base, was also 1 for 1 with 2 walks. So, and I know you said when you saw Lauderdale County against Plainview, it seemed like they barreled everything up that they saw. Against Gordo, I mean, they've shown that they can win in different ways. They can out-hit you, they can score a lot of runs, or they can run their 2 big arms. And they've got more arms outside of those 2 guys, but Lauderdale County can beat you in a variety of ways, and that's why I'm going with Lauderdale County here, the number 1 team in Class 3A. Coach Looney does a great job. They're well coached, so does Coach Wendell at Westbrook Christian. 2 really good teams. I'm going Lauderdale County here, and here's our guy who will be at the game today. So if Coach Looney's on, he better be getting some smoked bologna. What is that, smoked bologna sandwich?
Smoked bologna sandwich, man, and it is good. It's good. And again, it's the first time I'd ever have smoked bologna, but it was awesome, and we look forward. We appreciate Colin going today. Yeah, man, I'm gonna side with you with Lauderdale County. Again, that's no slight towards Westbrook Christian whatsoever. When you go into a series against a team like Lauderdale County, here's what you know going in, okay? Number 1, you maybe hope that those arms aren't as dominant as they have been being of late. That's one of the things. And then number 2, you go in knowing that you cannot give up 6 or 7 runs, because the chances of you scoring 6 or 7 runs pretty few and far between. I'm not saying that Westbrook Christian can't do that, but when those 2 arms at Lauderdale County have been on the bump, they have not given up many runs at all. The one I was there, I think they beat Piedmont 9-1, and the first game was like, what's that?
Plainview,
not Piedmont, yeah, Plainview, and I think first game was like 5-2 or something. I mean, they just aren't giving up many runs, and it starts on the bump. And for that reason, man, those 2 arms on the mound make it so difficult to score on. And the day that I saw Lauderdale County, I thought they were a complete offensive team as well. And you mentioned it, being able to win in a variety of ways is impressive, and it helps you at this time of the year. So I'm going to go Lauderdale County as well to advance to the Final Four. Again, that'll get started this afternoon at 4:30. We look forward to following it. So that will lead us right into 4A, and in 4A, this has got to be one of the top 2 or 3 series statewide right here.
Whoever wins these 2 games, I will be happy with the state champ, because you look at any of these 4 teams will make it to the state championship. It'll be a big time matchup either way.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, these are 4 teams. I mean, you look there. We've got the number 4 team, the number 1 team, the number 3 team, and the number 6 team. And that number 6 team could very well have been ranked higher. But starting us off in the South, you've got American Christian.
That number 6 team, they may be playing the best out of all 4 of these teams.
100%. They sure might. And we've talked about their pitching depth. And just
wait for these stats I'm about to read out for corner.
Gotcha. You got number 4, American Christian. They won Area 6. They come in with a record of 25-16. And you know what? If you think back, they were like 8-12 at one point and ranked in our top 10. They knew what they were doing by the schedule they put together. American Christian last week, they swept Oak Grove by scores of 5-1 and 16-0. Gave up 1 run over 2 games. Again, that's the number 4 ranked team. They are on the road this week at number 1, the Choctaws of Bibb County. Bibb County has been ranked 1, 2, or 3 all year long, and they've held on to that number 1 spot probably the last 7 or 8 weeks of the regular season, and for good reason. They come in at 32-4 after winning Area 5 this year. They were pushed to 3 games this past weekend. They lost to Trinity Presbyterian in game 1, 4-2. They were able to win an exciting game 2, 1-0, and then they beat Trinity 6-3 in game 3 to advance to get to the Final Four. Man, listen, this one gets started, as I mentioned, Wednesday at 4:30. There's probably not a bigger matchup statewide than these 2 teams, 2 of the most talented teams in 4A going at it. This is going to be one to watch. And these 2 teams are from pretty much the same area. I'm sure they know each other fairly well. Austin, you mentioned those stats. Let's hear them.
Yeah, starting with American Christian, a team who we've been high on all season long. Everybody knows that. Looking at game 1 last week, I think they won 5-1, like you said. Shortstop Bubba Lester, a senior for them, kind of seems to be their glue guy, multi-year starter. He was 2 for 3 with an RBI, a walk, and 2 runs. Catcher Jalen Crocker, a sophomore, was 2 for 3 with an RBI double. Evan Lightsey, who's really seemed to be swinging it well down as of late for American Christian. He was 1 for 3 with an RBI. And then on the mound, right-handed pitcher Addison Goodman, who I think is headed to Lawson. He went 7 innings, gave up 3 hits, just 1 run, and struck out 5. In game 2 is really where American Christian kind of flexed their muscles and showed off the big offensive firepower. And it all starts with outfielder Eric Hines, who we love watching him hit. He was 1 for 2 with a home run, and I think it was a three-run bomb, hitting it near the top of their order. Once again in game 2, Evan Lightsey, their first baseman, was 2 for 3 with 2 home runs and 4 RBIs. Jalen Crocker, again, was 1 for 3 with 2 RBIs and a double. K. Durrett, an infielder for them, also had a double. And then on the mound, right-handed pitcher Colton Mitchell threw 5 innings in the mercy ruled win. He went 5 innings, gave up 1 hit, no runs, 1 walk, and 9 strikeouts.
Let me say things. Can I say something real quick? Looks like American Christian has moved their pitching rotation around since I saw them earlier. Crocker threw the first game early in the season or early in the playoffs. Now it looks like Goodman is throwing game 1. Yeah. They're still going Mitchell, who I think they think is their number 1. He's still going 2, and you would assume, don't know, but Crocker would probably go a game 3 if needed. So they've moved their pitching rotation around just a bit.
Yeah. Like I said, I think Goodman's going to Lawson. I think he's going to a JUCO. I think it's Lawson. If I'm wrong, forgive me. But looking at Bibb County, we mentioned got beat in the first game to Trinity last week. Quickly turned around in game 2. Bodie Gideons, who I saw last year when I went and watched them against Bayside Academy. He's a physical middle of the order hitter for them from the right side. In game 2, he was 1 for 2 with a home run, a solo shot, and a walk. Jordan Leverett was 2 for 3, had 2 hits. And then on the mound, McCain McMillan went 7 innings, gave up 5 hits, no runs, and struck out 10 batters. In game 3 for Bibb County, shortstop Matthew Cash, right-handed pitcher, I think he throws game 1 for Bibb County. He went 2 for 4 with a double and 2 runs. Bodie Gideons, once again, was 3 for 4 with a double and 2 RBIs. And then on the mound, outfielder Dawson Schultz went 7 innings, gave up 4 hits, 2 earned runs. And then at the plate, he added a double and 3 RBIs. Like you said, man, these 2 teams are pretty close in proximity to each other. I expect it to be a huge crowd at Bibb County. Kind of that small town feel when I went to Bibb County last year. They're back once again deep in the playoffs. Well, we've talked about it all year long. American Christian, I think they are one of the most talented teams, especially in Class 4A in that Tuscaloosa area, led by that big time offense. 1 through 9, they can swing it. They seem to be pitching it well, not giving up many runs in the playoffs. But then you look at Bibb County, 32-4, I think, at home, the number 1 team. I'm going to go American Christian. I'm going to pick American Christian to go on the road to the number 1 team and win a 2 out of 3 series to punch their ticket to the 4A state finals next week.
I got a text from a Bibb County person yesterday, man.
See, why does everybody text you, man? Y'all got
to. Maybe it was 2 days ago. And this is what it said. And man, let me tell you something. We love interacting with all of you. This is what it said. We're going to try to bust your bracket. Because I picked American Christian to win the whole thing. And you know what? Bibb County may very well bust my bracket in 4A. But much like you, man, that offensive onslaught.
You got a chance to hedge here.
I'm not. I've got to go American Christian, man. I've got to go American Christian. And again, here we are, both of us picking against our number 1 team in the state at home. Listen, that there's no disrespect to Bibb County whatsoever. I mean, we've got them ranked number 1 for a reason, and we've had them ranked number 1 for a reason. But man, American Christian, they're battle tested. They've played the best of the best. There are no easy outs in that lineup. They're getting good pitching. You mentioned Goodman now in that game 1 starters role. Colton Mitchell, who I saw, and man, he can. I'm telling you, when I walked away from that ACA Orange Beach series that I saw in the first round, my biggest thing on Colton Mitchell was, man, that guy can command any pitch to both sides of the plate, and he does, man. Doesn't have overpowering stuff. He just misses barrels and is able to move the ball in and out, change speeds, which that's what good pitchers do. I've got to go. I'm going American Christian here. So we're both going to pick against our number 1 team. We've said it all year. Don't want to keep repeating the same thing, but we're going to side with American Christian to end up in Jacksonville. So, but if we get to Jacksonville next week and our Bibb County people are there, we'll tell you we missed. We'll tell you we missed.
Take you all out to eat.
Yeah. We'll do what? Oh, be careful now.
Yeah.
And so that'll set us up with the other 4A matchup in the Final Four, and this one is every bit as good as that one. You've got the winners of Area 10, the Corner Yellow Jackets. They've been in the top 5, 6, 7 of our season, of our pros all year. They come in with a record of 29-6. I do not think they've lost in the playoffs. Last week, Corner defeated a really good Deshler team 9-0 and 14-4. I mean, that's pretty dominant in the Elite 8 round. They will be on the road this week in Madison as they travel to number 3, Westminster Christian. Westminster Christian won Area 13. They have a record of 26-8. This one will get started on Thursday at 5 o'clock. Last week, Westminster Christian was pushed to 3 games, and this was another one of our series that we highlighted in 4A last week. Westminster Christian dropped game 1 to North Jackson 13-10. Listen to these numbers. They dropped game 1 13-10. They won game 2 12-2 and won game 3 14-4. So there are some really, really offensive numbers put up there. I will tell you that Westminster Christian, those offensive numbers, that's their strength. It's obvious what Corner strength is. All right, it's all those frontline arms they have. You said that we're going to be amazed at, and offensively they can swing it too. But those arms as well, you talked about the stats. Let's hear them.
Yeah, in game 1 last week for Corner, we've kind of coined them the big 3, but Corner's more than those 3 players. But man, looking at Eli Cannon last week in game 1, outfielder, right-handed pitcher, headed to Wallace Hansful. He was 3 for 4 with a home run and 5 RBIs. Brendan Connor was 3 for 4, 3 for 3. He's headed to UAB. Brendan Connor, he was 2 for 4 with a double, a home run, and 4 RBIs. And then on the mound, right-handed pitcher Brody Dunlap, who's also headed to UAB. He went 7 innings, gave up 2 hits, no runs, and 5 strikeouts. In game 2, Jace Boyd, their leadoff hitter, outfielder, was 5 for 6, a double, and 7 RBIs. Eli Cannon got the start. Wasn't his best outing. He went 5 innings, gave up 7 hits, 4 runs, 7 strikeouts. But at the plate, he was 3 for 5 with 2 doubles and 4 RBIs. Cole Rasberry had a home run. Carson Hurley was 3 for 4 with a home run.
Cole Raspberry's headed to Wallace Hansville.
Yeah. Max
Sorry.
Hill was 3 for 4 with 3 runs. And then Brendan Connor came in the 6th and the 7th through 2 innings, gave up no hits, no runs, walked 1 hitter, and struck out 6. So struck out all of his outs and then gave up the 1 walk.
A little birdie told me yesterday that Connor's really worked up pitch count in his pins. So, yeah.
That would only help the Yellow Jackets.
Yeah.
But I mean they can score in bunches. But so can Westminster Christian too. Looking at their scores last week, scored double digits in every game. They scored 10 in game 1, 12 in game 2, 14 in game 3. Looking at that game 2 win for Westminster Christian last week, Sean Lipinskis, their shortstop, headed to UAH. Was 2 for 3 with a home run and 3 RBIs. Riley Friend, their first baseman, had a double and 2 RBIs. Lawson Collier was 2 for 2 with an RBI and 2 walks. Caleb Good was 2 for 4 with a double and 3 RBIs. And then on the mound, Jackson Lang went 6 innings, gave up 4 hits, 2 runs, and 8 strikeouts. And then game 3, I know Sean Lipinskis had a home run and 2 RBIs. Lawson Collier had multiple hits. Jackson Lang had multiple runs driven in. And then Zeke Carwile, an outfielder for them, kind of at the bottom of the order, had a double and drove in a few runs for them as well. So 2 offenses who can really swing it. But I think not the glaring I don't want to call it a mismatch because it's not a mismatch because Westminster Christian can pitch it. I think the advantage that one team has over another in this matchup, I like Corner's arms with Cannon, Dunlap, and then you mentioned Connor ramping it back up, showing he can be who he is. Striking out 6 in 2 innings pitched in relief in game 2 last week. He only bolsters that pitching staff. Give me Corner, who has just pretty much dominated each team that they play. They haven't lost in the playoffs. Give me Corner to advance to the 4A state championship next week.
You're right. They have dominated. And I'm going to say this with Westminster Christian, Lawson Collier, if you're a junior college coach looking for an uncommitted senior outfielder that can help you, there's your guy. I would like to see his batting average in the playoffs. I mean, he has put up some video game type numbers all year long. I saw it firsthand against Brooks, against obviously, Chatterton in game 1. He wasn't overmatched. Lipinski, we've known about him. He can really hit. You mentioned the 2 home runs last week. That is an offensive lineup as well. I like you. I think. What's that?
That I like you too.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate it. Like you also, I think the difference here is the corner pitching staff. I mean, I do. I think both of these teams are able to put up, a lot of runs. I think it may be a little bit more difficult for Westminster facing that big 3 at the head of that corner Yellow Jacket staff. I'm going to go Corner as well. And again, we've talked Westminster all year long. That's a team that just goes about their business. And, we've had them ranked really high all year long. But I got to go with Corner in this matchup. They've just been too dominant so far. So we'll see how that plays. So moving right along into 5A. And this one will get started this afternoon. And this is one you're going to be at. You've got number 5, the Leopards of Mobile Christian. There's another one of our runner-ups. They were the runner-up in Area 2. They come in with a record of 22-10. Last week, Mobile Christian swept Tallahassee by scores of 7-1 and 13-1. That was a little surprising in the score there because Tallahassee's good. That's a credit to Mobile Christian. I'm not saying that we were surprised that they won, but surprised in how they went about that because that was a good Tallahassee team. But then you flip it over and you look at what Valley did. Valley, they won Area 6. They finished right outside of our top 10. They sit at 6-1. They won 2 tight games last week. Was it 1-0 and 2-0? Is that right?
1-0 and 2-0.
And that game, yeah, go ahead. You're going to say it. Go ahead.
Game 2, Hopewell had first, and they're the home team because Hopewell's on the road. They're the home team in game 2. Had first and second, no outs, and I think they did a hit. I think it was a double steal, line out to shortstop, throw to second for 2 outs, throw to first for 3 outs. A game-ending triple play to punch the ticket to the Final Four,
And
and
defeat,
then just an absolute light show with fireworks, and now just light show. That was awesome.
and doing so against the defending 5A state champs, and doing so against the team that we had talked about how hot they were, and it was just their time. That was impressive. Again, giving up no runs. Mobile Christian gave up a total of 2 runs last week. Runs could be at a premium this week. Tell us about it, Austin.
Yeah, Mobile Christian last week, and I saw Tallahassee. Tallahassee obviously beat. You look at Tallahassee, who they had beaten in the playoffs. They beat Marbury, who we had ranked for a good part of the season, and then they beat Gulf Shores, who was number 3 in 5A.
They were as high as number 1 during the season.
Yeah, Tallahassee, they weren't scared, of their competition. They proved that they can beat anybody, and then for Mobile Christian to beat them pretty, combined score of 20 to 2. Mobile Christian looks to be clicking. But then, so does Valley. But looking at Mobile Christian in game 1, obviously won that game 7-1, like we mentioned. Damian Gatson, 2025, who's headed to South Alabama. He was 2 for 3 with a home run and 2 RBIs. PJ Brown, little speedster infielder for them, was 1 for 2 with 3 RBIs. Gavin Weinshinker, their shortstop, hitting in the cleanup, was 2 for 4 with a run scored. And then on the mound, Zach McKinion, who's headed to Coastal Alabama Community College. He went 7 innings, gave up 6 hits, no earned runs, and struck out 3. In game 2 is when the offense kind of really took over from Mobile Christian. Damian Gatson once again was 2 for 3 with a pair of RBIs. Bryce Rivers was 2 for 3 with a double and 2 RBIs. Alexander Bennett was 2 for 2 with a double and 2 RBIs and 2 walks after walking 4 times in game 1. PJ Brown once again had a double and 2 RBIs. Chandler Carpenter had a double and 2 RBIs, scored 3 times. Carson Cooper also was 1 for 2 with an RBI, a walk, and a run scored. And then on the mound, Mobile Christian used 2 arms to kind of get through that 5-inning mercy rule win. Walker Seaman went 2 2/3, gave up 2 hits, 1 run, 3 strikeouts. And then Reed Schmidt, another right-hander, came in the 3rd inning and went the final 2 1/3, gave up 1 hit, no runs, and 3 strikeouts. Looking at Valley last week against Holtville in game 1, not much offense, obviously, outscoring them 3-0 in the series. One game, 1-0. Outfielder Bryson Monteith was 1 for 3 with a double, a walk, and scored the only run of the game. And then on the mound, we've talked about it. Game 1 for Valley, you have to like your chances with Jackson Sanders on the mound. Jackson went an Auburn recruit, went 7 innings, gave up 4 hits, no runs, no walks, and 13 strikeouts. In game 2 last week for Valley, shortstop, when they won 2-0, shortstop right-handed pitcher Matthew McDonald was 1 for 3. Ty Monteith went 1 for 3, had an RBI, and then catcher Carter Green had the other RBI and also had a double. On the mound, right-handed pitcher, infielder CJ Chamley went 6 innings, gave up 3 hits and no runs. And then Matthew McDonald, who I just mentioned, came in and threw the last inning of the game, got that triple play, and got the save on the mound. So Valley has, obviously behind Sanders in game 1, they've shown that they can, pitch it really well. And you look back to that St. Paul's Episcopal series, who, St. Paul's, arguably has the top offense in Class 5A. Valley was able to neutralize that offense enough and was able to win that series. This is another series like that St. Paul's series with, another really offensive team. Mobile Christian obviously also finished as the runner-up to St. Paul's. So Valley, comes into this series expecting to win, and they've got a really good shot. I've picked against Valley the last 2 weeks. They've proven me wrong, and they probably want me to pick Mobile Christian, and I'm going to pick Mobile Christian. I'm going to go with the Leopards here, but would not be surprised in the slightest if Valley was able to win this game. Like you said, I'll be there. Take it easy on me, Valley fans. You've had a great playoff run. Would not be surprised if you're able to win this series, but Mobile Christian seems to be playing really good right now. Offense is clicking. You're getting good starts from their starting pitchers, and I just think the offense may be a little too much this week. Sanders, like we said, Sanders, if you're Mobile Christian, if you win game one, that is a plus against Jackson Sanders. But I don't know what I'm trying to say, but in game one, you gotta like your chances if you're Valley, and then it's all about winning one of those last two games, and you're in the state championship. But I'm gonna go with Mobile Christian here in this matchup.
I'm a little different than you in that I picked Valley last week against Holtville at home, and they came through and won for me. And man,
I'm gonna have to go back and watch that film from last week and make sure you pick Valley.
I did. Let me double check here. Let me just double check. Let me go to my 5A sheet. Right there. There it is in purple, in pink. Valley. All right. I picked Valley last week. I would love to pick Valley again this week, but much like you, I just think there's too much offense at Mobile Christian. We've talked about it ad nauseum all year long about what we think of that offensive lineup. They're getting quality innings on the mound, which makes it even more difficult. You talked last week, McKinnon went complete game. Seaman and Schmitz split the second game just to get work in because they were way ahead in the Mercy Rule game. I have to go Mobile. I don't have to, but I'm going to go Mobile Christian just from that offensive side of things. Valley, again, 26-5, man. The overall body of work speaks for itself. We've known and talked about they're more than a one-man show. It's not Jackson Sanders and everyone else. But I think that Mobile Christian may find just enough runs to win this. I think they may be able to, just push across enough runs to win. I like the Leopards to advance to next week's 4A final, next week's 5A final in Oxford, Jacksonville area. And that'll take us to the north. Another top 10 matchup. You've got area 11 winners, Springville. They are ranked number 7. They come in with a record of 29-9. Last week, Springville went and swept Russellville at Russellville. And, we'll be the first ones to tell you when, we said we talked about this series and it played out like we thought it would. Well, I'm here to tell you that last week I picked Russellville because on the road at Russellville, I thought it would be very difficult. And it was 2 tightly contested games, but Springville proved me wrong, and I believe they proved you wrong as well.
Yep.
Springville did not allow a run last week. They defeated Russellville 3-0 and 6-0 at Russellville. That's a tall task. Again, Springville ranked number 7. They are on the road this week at the Alexandria Valley Cubs. Alexandria is ranked number 1 in our 5A poll. They come in at 28-9. They won Area 12. I obviously saw them last week in the first 2 games as they were at Sardis, and it was our number 1 series of the week last week. Alexandria won game 1, 4-2, lost game 2, 4-1, and then Braygood in game 3 gave them a gem. They defeated Sardis 7-0. And I'm going to tell you something. If you shut that Sardis lineup down and do not give up a run, that says a lot. And we've talked all year long about that Alexandria pitching staff. I'm just going to throw I'm going to throw this little caution flag up right now. Alexandria better be careful this week because Springville can pitch it right there with them. Springville has played the Hewitt Trustfuls, and they played a lot of larger schools, 6 and 7A schools this year. What they did last week was impressive. Alexandria coming off a little bit of an emotional win. We hyped that series up, rightfully so. Here's one that it's pitting 2 teams that are very, very similar.
Yeah, and you look at both of these teams last week went on the road against teams that we had ranked higher than them and was able to win the series going on the road. Alexandria obviously will be at home this week. We'll start with Springville. Last week, obviously, like you said, didn't give up a run in both of their games. Offensively, Cade Willis, their third baseman, was 2 for 3 with an RBI. Kevin Jones also had an RBI and a hit. First baseman Grant Martinez also had a hit and an RBI. And then catcher Sean Nichols also drove in 2 runs for them as well. And then on the mound, Carter Samuelson, right-handed pitcher, went 7 innings, gave up 5 hits, no runs, and 5 strikeouts. He went 2 for 3 with a double at the plate as well, but he can beat anybody in any classification. Samuelson is he's one of the top uncommitted arms in the junior class, and he's pitching like it right now. They need another big outing from him this week, going up against Alexandria. And then in game 2, once again, it was Caleb Willis. He had a triple. Outfielder Carter Samuelson, who we just talked about, pitching it in game 1 and also had a double in game 1. He drove in a run and went 1 for 3 as well in game 2. Sean Nichols, who we just talked about, also had a hit and an RBI. And then on the mound, using 2 pitchers to shut down Russellville, Alex Holland got the start. He went 4 innings, gave up 3 hits, no runs, and 2 strikeouts. And then behind him, Ryan King was about as efficient as it gets. Went 3 innings, gave up no hits, no runs, walked just 1 hitter, and struck out 3. Looking at Alexandria last week and their wins, you mentioned that game 1 win. Catcher Aiden Bruner was 2 for 3 with a double, an RBI, and a walk. Evan Snow had 2 hits and scored once as well. Bray Good, hitting near the bottom of that order, was 2 for 3 with a double and an RBI. And then on the mound, right-handed pitcher Andrew Allen, who's headed to Arkansas State. He went 7 innings, gave up 7 hits, 1 earned run, and struck out 4. In game 2, that game 2 that seemed to be as close as it gets was 1-1 going to the 8th, and then Trip Patterson going for Alexandria was really good. I think he worked into the 8th, ran into a little bit of trouble, and then Samuel Henniger came in and got the last couple of outs, and then that forced the game 3. Alexandria was led by 2 really big swings. One by shortstop Brody Slayton. He had a grand slam, was 2 for 4. And then outfielder Tyler Brown also was 2 for 2 and had a 2-run homer and two walks. So that 2 of those swings, and that's 6 runs. That's really how Alexandria got it done offensively. And then on the mound, you mentioned Bray Good. We talked about Andrew Allen and Trip Patterson. Allen gave up 7 hits. He was still good, gave up 7 hits. Trip Patterson was really good, but Sardis was able to find a way to beat him. Bray Good was, he went 7 shutout innings, obviously went 7 innings, gave up 6 hits, no runs, 1 walk, and 10 strikeouts. So out of those 3 pitchers, those 2 names that we talked about in Allen and Patterson, we talked about him ad nauseum. Bray Good arguably had the best outing out of all 3 of those. That is a real three-headed monster in that pitching rotation. But then you look at Springville, didn't give up a run last week to Russellville. So they're both of these teams are pitching it really well and finding a way to score runs at timely score offense in a timely manner. I'm going to go with the Valley Cubs. I'm going to go Alexandria at home. Our preseason number 1 ranked team. They were inside the top 3 for the whole season, and then closed out at the number 1 spot in Class 5A at the end of the regular season. We've talked about it. They're built for 3-game series with those 3 arms at the top, and then the depth of that lineup. We didn't even mention Ian Cartwright, Samuel Henniger, a host of other guys. The Valley Cubs are a complete team, but this week Springville is a very, very talented team. Obviously, being in the Final Four and beating the teams that they have beaten, it's going to be a very well-played series, but ultimately I think Alexandria finds a way to win it in what could be another 3-game series. Give me the Valley Cubs with a slight edge.
Could this be the first team to 3 runs wins each game?
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be hard to get to 2 runs, and it's going to be hard to get to 3 runs. And it was so neat to watch last week, Alexandria and Sardis, because both of those coaching staffs, if they got a leadoff man on, they weren't wasting any time. They were bumping them over because both of those coaching staffs knew, again, they're not going to score 8-9 runs. We've got to play for a run here, a run here, a run here. And that's the fun type of baseball. Get a leadoff man on, bump him over. You just mentioned timely hitting. That's what this is going to be about. We know what we're going to get from both sides from a pitching standpoint. We know it's going to be hard to score. who's going to get those timely hits. I like Alexandria's depth offensively as well, a little bit more than Springville. And they're at home. Part of me, I don't want to say worries, but part of me is like, Alexandria just had that 1 versus 2 matchup last week.
A little bit of a letdown spot.
Yeah, are they in a letdown spot? So if anybody from Alexandria is listening now, use this as bulletin board material. Don't let this be a letdown spot for you, because, listen, Springville on the road at Russellville, 9-0, outscore them over 2 games. Springville can easily win this series. There's no doubt about it. They can easily win it. But I'm going to go with Alexandria to score just enough runs to come out 2 or 3 low-scoring affairs in 5A. So that'll wrap us up in 5A. We've got 2 classifications left. Our next is 6A. In 6A, in South Alabama, we have the Area 2 winners, the Spanish Fort Toros. They finished the season ranked number 9. They are currently at 28-10. Last week, Spanish Fort defeated Wetumpka 10-2 and 8-5. I think that second game was like 5-5 in the 6th or something.
Tied going to the 7th.
The 7th, going to the 7th. Yes, we were following that game.
Spanish Fort was the visiting team, 5-5, and they scored 3 runs.
That's correct. That's correct. We were following that game down in South Alabama, but Spanish Fort was able to sweep Coach Dismukes and Wetumpka last week. Talked to Coach Dismukes, very impressed with Spanish Fort. They are on the road this week. They'll be traveling to Hillcrest, Tuscaloosa. Here's another one of our area runner-ups that's still alive. Hillcrest, Tuscaloosa was runner-up in Area 6. Last week, Hillcrest, Tuscaloosa defeated Baldwin County 3-1 in Game 1. Lost 11-0 in Game 2. I'm sure they were saving arms. And then they defeated Baldwin County in Game 3. And I'm sure you'll talk about that outing here in just a second. This series will get started on Friday at 5 o'clock in Tuscaloosa. I think this is an interesting series because this is two teams that are notoriously strong playoff contenders and state powers. Spanish Fort, they've won state championships in the past, finished runner-up last year. Hillcrest, Tuscaloosa, we talked about them last week, about their longevity in the playoffs. They have been in the Elite Eight for 10 straight years. That is just an amazing fact. This is 2 heavyweights in Alabama High School Athletic Association baseball going at it this week. Austin, do you have anybody from Spanish Fort that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I got a lot of guys from Spanish Fort. In Game one last week, kind of pulled away from Wetumpka in Game 1 last week, and here's a guy who had a great series last week and a guy who's one of our favorites to watch hit.
Love that left-handed swing, man. Left-handed swing.
Yeah. Lakeland Ray was 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs and 2 runs scored, hitting up near the top of that order. Catcher Jack Hawley, who's a senior who's headed to Georgia State, he was 3 for 4 with a solo home run. Newton Gardner, another middle of the order hitter for them, was 2 for 4 with an RBI. Braden Cooper, first baseman, right-handed pitcher who's headed to Gadsden State, was 2 for 3 with a double and 3 RBIs. Nemo Hickson, the shortstop, another one of our favorites, just a little baller, was 1 for 3 with an RBI. Grant Howard also had a hit and walked. Wyatt Perry had a double as well. And then on the mound, right-handed pitcher Ethan Kick, who's a recent Lawson State recruit, went the whole game, went 7 innings, gave up 4 hits, 3 runs, 1 walk, and 5 strikeouts. Like you said, they were able to pull away a little bit from Wetumpka in Game 1, and then in Game 2, we talked about a little bit more of a closely contested game against Wetumpka. Lakeland Ray, once again, multi-hit performance, was 3 for 4 with an RBI and 2 runs, and had the go-ahead RBI double in the top of the 7th to break that 5-5 tie. And then right behind him, Braden Cooper also had a 2 RBI double that pushed that lead to 8-5, and they were able to go out and get 3 outs and punch their ticket to the semifinals. Catcher Jack Hawley had another home run in Game 2. Mentioned Braden Cooper. Andrew Salmon near at the bottom of that order, an outfielder for them, had a 2 RBI home run. And then on the mound, the Toros used 3 different pitchers. John Henry Winstead, who's another recent Lawson State recruit, really high on him, can really pitch mid to upper 80s fastball. Went 4 innings, gave up 5 hits, no earned runs, and struck out 3. Behind him, left-handed pitcher Grant Howard went 2 innings, gave up 1 hit, no earned runs, and struck out 2. And then throwing the 7th, Mitch DC went an inning, gave up 1 hit, no runs, no walks, and 1 strikeout. Looking at Hillcrest, the Patriots, like you mentioned, won that first game on the road at Baldwin County. Evan Williams was sort of the star of the show, a right-handed pitcher catcher who's headed to Northwest Shoals. Williams went 6 2/3, gave up 8 hits, but just 1 run, struck out 3. And then at the plate from the left side, he went 2 for 3 with a double and an RBI. And then DH, right-handed pitcher Jackson Henderson, had a solo home run and then came in to get the last out of the inning in the 7th. Noah Latham, their third baseman, was 2 for 3 with an RBI. And then Brooks Tunnel, their first baseman, was 2 for 3 with a double. Lost that game 2 in a little bit of a game that got out of hand. Turned around in game 3. Jackson Henderson, who we just talked about, got that last out in the 7th in game 1. The Shelton State recruit went 7 innings, carried a no-hitter into the 7th, but gave up 1 hit. He went 7 innings, gave up 1 hit, 1 run, 3 walks, 8 strikeouts, and then was 2 for 3 with a home run, 2 RBIs, and a walk. Outfielder Rhett Turnspeed was 3 for 4 with 2 RBIs and a run scored. Brooks Tunnel once again was 2 for 4 with a run. Gunnar Hobson, their shortstop, had a hit and an RBI, and then Caden Smith in the leadoff spot for the Patriots, an outfielder, a sophomore outfielder, was 1 for 4 with 2 RBIs, a walk, and a run scored.
Oh,
I'm willing to guess that is this the other game that you have not picked?
100% it is. Yep.
Yeah, this is a big time series getting set to take place. Getting started on Friday, one of the final series. I think it's the last Final Four series to get started on the week. One that I plan to be at in the Tuscaloosa area. We'll be headed up to the northern part of the state on this weekend. Think I'm going to swing by the Tuscaloosa area on the way home.
You coming home to see your mother for Mother's Day?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Good for you.
And then we'll be headed down to Oxford on Monday.
That's right.
Just buying time before I have to make this pick.
No, I legitimately haven't circled anybody yet.
Yeah. What do we have for lunch on Sunday? Give me the Toros.
Oh,
Give me Spanish Fort on the road. Last year's run, a magical run. I talked to some of the Spanish Fort parents when we had our South Alabama showdown at the early part of the season. Had a bunch of Mobile teams and Birmingham teams came and played down in a tournament down in Gulf Shores. Talked to some of their parents, and it was they came out of the gate. They weren't healthy on the mound. Winstead was still working back, kind of on a limited pitch count. I don't think Ethan Kick was healthy as well. So they got off to a little bit of a struggle start. Struggled out of the gate a little bit, but kind of like last year at the middle part of the season, get into area play. You start getting healthy. You start getting guys back on the mound. You start playing your best baseball, and here you are in the Final Four. Spanish Fort obviously beating some really good teams. They beat Saraland in that big-time Sweet 16 matchup, beat Wetumpka last week. Tommy Walker is back for the Toros at the head coaching job, a long-time head coach a while back for Spanish Fort. He's back now. I'm going to go Spanish Fort. Man, this is history with history, tradition on tradition. You look at both of these programs, historic programs, churning out next level prospects. But I'm going to side with Spanish Fort in a big time series getting started Friday in Tuscaloosa. Like I said, one that I plan to be at. Give me Spanish Fort by a very thin margin. I like Spanish Fort to win this series.
One of those Spanish Fort parents you talk about, big NASCAR fan?
100%.
There you go. That's exactly right. Man, I'm going to go Hillcrest. Shantae, probably not going to like my pick. I'm sorry. Austin sided with the Toros. I'm going to go with Hillcrest. And I think here's the reason why I'm going with Hillcrest is because we're both just torn. And I think we could both go either way. I mean, we both could go either way. Spanish Fort, you mentioned the run they've had in the playoffs. You've mentioned, getting hot at the right time. You mentioned this is the same thing that happened last year. They're doing it again. But you look at Hillcrest, and that's a team, you look at that pitching performance in game 3, that tells me about their pitching depth. They were saving some arms in game 2. No doubt that score got away from them. But with the home field advantage by the slightest, you mentioned the slightest of margin going with Spanish Fort. I'm going to go with Hillcrest this week at home. And again, this is a situation where when we show up at Oxford and Jacksonville next week, I'm not going to be completely surprised if it's Spanish Fort representing the South or if it's Hillcrest Tuscaloosa representing the South. Either one of these teams can be there. It's going to be good baseball. And I'm glad you're going to be able to make it there, but that's a big-time matchup there. So we're going to split that one. We both are not real comfortable with it. We know it can go either way. And that'll take us to the north. And we mentioned in 4A about that American Christian Bibb County matchup, about that one being, that is as big a series as there is in the state. Well, I think you can put this one right there beside it, if not possibly higher. These two schools, again, no disrespect taken towards any other 6A program, but in the North in the last couple of years, these two teams have sort of led the charge in North Alabama baseball in 6A. Obviously, there are a lot of other good 6A programs last week, and, these two schools both beat good 6A programs last week. But you've got the Hartselle Tigers. They've been ranked 1, 2, or 3 and pretty much won the last 75% of the season. Number 1 ranked and winners of Area 14. They have a record of 30-8. Last week, they defeated Athens by scores of 3-0 and 1-0. And that's a little bit, I don't want to say abnormal for Hartselle.
Let me give you this. If you're Athens, and before the series, I tell you, you're going to give up, what is it, 4
total runs.
4 total runs.
You take it in a heartbeat.
100%.
Yes. Because Hartselle has lived a lot off their offense this year. And I'm not saying they can't pitch. I'm not saying that whatsoever. But it's a lot easier to pitch when you've got an offense scoring 7, 8, 9 runs a game. But last week, back-to-back shutouts, including a no-hitter last week, for the Hartselle Tigers over Athens, and a team that Athens had just beaten Gardendale the week before. Athens can really pitch. We talked about that last week. We thought it was strength versus strength. Hartselle bats, Athens pitching. Hartselle is on the road this week. They are at number 2, the Oxford Yellow Jackets. Oxford comes in with a record of 31-10. They won an absolute war of a series last week. I know that you were there on Friday. They split on Friday or maybe Thursday. I can't even remember. It all runs together now. Oxford defeated Mountain Brook 6-5 in game 1, lost to Mountain Brook 4-2 in game 2. Caleb Barnett from Mountain Brook really stole the show that game. And then in an epic game 3 that went 12 innings where Oxford was losing by 1 run, going to the bottom of the 12th, they were able to scratch out 2 runs and win and advance to this week's Final Four. Again, it doesn't get any bigger in the North. It does get bigger. Next week is the state championship, but you've got 1 versus 2 here. You've got 2 of the perennial powers in 6A. It's going to be wild. This series begins tomorrow at 4:00. If my timing, if I'm able to be there, I will 100% be there. I've got something in the morning. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get away. I mean, I will do everything I can to get here tomorrow, and I plan 100% to be there, but I've got something I've got to take care of in the morning before that 2-hour and 15-minute drive to Oxford. But man, this one's huge. The first 2 games will be played at Chocolaco Park. If there is an if necessary game, it would move to the on-field, the on-campus field at Oxford due to the Alabama Junior College State Tournament getting started. So this one will get started Wednesday at 4. Austin, I know you've got some people that obviously Hartselle and Oxford are loaded with talent.
Yeah. Starting with Hartselle, we talked about their offense, but the pitching really set itself. It really took over last week in a series where Athens has some really good arms. In a series, maybe and you're not everybody knows baseball. You're not going to be able to go out and go 2 for 3 every single game. You're going to have games where the ball just doesn't drop your way. You don't you don't get those timely 2-out hits, but what wins championships and what gets you deep playoff runs is quality pitching and good defense. And that's what Hartselle was able to do last week. They generated just enough runs to be able to squeak out that series against Athens. Looking at that game 1 win, obviously you have to start with right-handed pitcher Jace Meadows, a junior. He went 7 innings, threw a complete game, no hitter, went 7 innings, no hits, no runs, 2 walks, and 4 strikeouts. He was, seemed to be in command from the first pitch. And then driving in the only run of the game was Asher Dopel. And it's guys like Asher Dopel who wins you games in these kind of games, those scrappy, hard-nosed players at the bottom of the order coming up with those big hits in the playoffs. Also for Hartselle, third baseman Josie Williamson, Alabama recruit who's a senior, also had a double and a walk. And that was pretty much it for Hartselle. I know K. Miles had another hit as well, but Jason Meadows really stole the show for the Tigers in game 1. In game 2, in the leadoff spot for Hartselle, Brody Leathers was 2 for 4 with a run scored. Josie Williamson reached base in all 4 plate appearances. He was 1 for 1 with 3 walks and 2 runs. Peyton Steele added an RBI double. Cam Palahatch also added an RBI, and Lawson Williams added 2 RBIs as well. On the mound, Nick Chumley went 7 innings, gave up 3 hits, no runs, 2 walks, and 1 strikeout. And he's not a guy who's going to go out there and get 7-8 strikeouts in a game. He's going to pitch to contact, not going to overpower you, going to locate mixed speeds. He's headed to Lawson, like I said. So both, Jace Meadows and Nick Chumley, quality starts last week against Athens, who's got some firepower in the middle of their order. And they've got other guys as well that they can use out of the bullpen, but those 2 arms really stole the show for the Tigers last week. Looking at Oxford in that game 1, Mountain Brook came out and I think they went up. They were up 5-0 going into the 5th, and looking at Oxford, they just couldn't get anything going on the mound. John Robichaux was throwing it well for Mountain Brook, but that Reed Maniscalco hitting in the 9-hole for them. I think it was with 2 outs. They got Rocco Maniscalco had a walk. I think it was no outs. But Rocco Maniscalco had a leadoff walk, and then Reed Maniscalco came up and hit just a bomb to right field, and that really seemed to get the train rolling for Oxford. They ended up scoring more in the inning, got it to 5-4. RJ Brooks came up and had a 2-out RBI single to center field, and then behind him, Rocco Maniscalco had a big go-ahead RBI single to left center field, and then they didn't get great starting pitching in game 1, but then you gotta give it to guys like right-handed pitcher Gavin Griner, who came in and kind of settled things down for Oxford. He went 4 2/3, gave up 4 hits and 1 earned run. And then once Oxford got that lead, they handed the ball to sophomore Cannon Whitman in the 6th, and Whitman went 2 innings, gave up no hits, no runs, 2 walks, and 1 strikeout. He also added an RBI single as well. So, that 6th spot in the bottom of the 5th was a really, in looking back on it with Mountain Brook winning that game too, that was a huge inning for the Yellow Jackets. And if they don't have that inning, they're probably not playing this week. So, and then in the game 2, like you said, Caleb Barnett was able to steal the show on the mound, was really strong, went 6+ innings on the mound. And Oxford made it interesting late, had the go-ahead run at the plate in the top of the 7th, but Mountain Brook was able to get two strikeouts to close out that game and force the game 3. And then, like you said, the back and forth, the extra inning thriller in game 3. Hudson Gilman got the start on the mound. He's a little bit banged up with his hand, not able to hit just as yet, but still found a way to make an impact for the Yellow Jackets. He went the first 4 innings, gave up 2 runs, and then you hand the ball to Carter Johnson, and you know what you're going to get. Carter
Go ahead.
Carter went 7 innings. I don't know how much he's pitched some for them on the back end. But Carter went 7 innings. I think he threw over 100 pitches, gave up 6 hits, 2 runs, and struck out 10 hitters. And, man.
You hand the ball to a guy for relief, and he ends up going 7 innings.
Crazy. But,
yeah.
Man, what an outing for Carter. And then it was the score. It was tied. I forget what the score was. You go out in the top of the 12th. If you're Oxford, you hand the ball to Bryson Bradford. He goes out, has a clean 1-2-3 inning for Oxford. Is that right?
No. Oxford was the home team.
Okay, I must have these mixed up.
Yeah.
Mount Brook was it. Caleb Barnett hit a bomb in the 12th to
put them up.
Put them up. And then Oxford answered back, and then highlighted by Judd Sire's RBI infield single to send the Yellow Jackets to the Final Four in a game that we all were following. You know, we were in a group text with a bunch of people just texting back and forth of, you know, following that game while we're out covering games. It was a fun one to follow. You know, Ty Gann also had an RBI. RJ Brooks had an RBI. Reed Maniscalco had 2 hits and an RBI. So the 1 through 9 for Oxford seems to be swinging it well. You know, you got RJ Brooks on the mound, and then in game 1, and then a bunch of other guys, and they've found a way to piece it together on the mound. Man, this is what is this? The third year in a row these teams have matched up in the late rounds of the playoffs, or has it been longer than that?
I know 3.
Yeah, definitely 3.
Yeah.
I'm going Oxford. Give me the Yellow Jackets. I'm gonna go Oxford I don't know if you call it an upset. These teams have played 3 times in the regular season. Hartsville won 2 of those games, but I'm not buying much stock into that. These 3 games there's much more at play. These games mean, you know, obviously these games are obviously mean more than those regular season games, but I'm going to go with Oxford. Give me the Yellow Jackets to do just enough in what's going to be another big time series in this edition of the, I guess you can call it a rivalry now. Give me Oxford at home.
Coach Miles is going to be upset because I'm sure he was waiting to hear
Hartsville.
Yes. Man, this one can go. You're right. This is the premier matchup in the state. I mean, it rivals ACA and Bibb County. If you look at rankings, this is the premier matchup in the state. It's 1 versus 2. It's 2 perennial powers. Obviously, as I said, if my schedule allows me to get away in the morning early enough to head that way, I will 100% be there. I sure hope I'm there. The Oxford people are always kind to me. The Oxford people have already said, if you make it, we'll feed you. We'll take care of you like they did you last week. I hope.
They even got a tour of the football facilities.
I hope they will still feed me if I'm able to make it. I'm going to go with the Tigers. And I think what flipped me, I don't want to say flipped me, but I think what maybe had me go with Hartsville is the pitching that they got last week. These are 2 offenses that it's quality bat throughout both lineups. I'm going to go with Hartsville on the road. I'm going to go with them. And I don't think, Hartsville's used to playing in raucous environments. It's going to be raucous. It's going to be fun to be at. I'm going to go with Hartsville. And again, Austin and I, we don't get together and say, let's split this one. Let's split this one. Let's split. We're in competition to win between each other. But I do think it's just right that we do split this one. And I had Hartsville circled barely. And the reason why is, again, I just go back to the pitching performances that they got last week. Not that they're going to be able to replicate those numbers against this Oxford lineup, but I think they're going to be able to, miss enough barrels to score enough runs to get a series win this week. So that'll take us to our final classification, and that is 7A. And, all year long, we've talked about Area 5 and we've talked about Area 6, and rightfully so with all of those teams. But isn't it sort of weird or ironic that it's come down to a battle of Area 4 opponents and a battle of Area 8 opponents? Both of these
in a year when we talked all about the Birmingham areas.
I know. You're exactly right. And that's what, we talked 5 and 6 all year long. But here's Area 4 matching up in the south and Area 8 matching up north. Obviously, neither one of these matchups, they need to introduce themselves to the other dugout, because these rivalries are as big as it gets. I don't think there's a lot of love lost between Auburn and Central Phoenix City, and I don't think there's a lot of love lost between Bob Jones and James Clemens. And again, I don't mean that there's hatred. I don't mean that there's disrespect. I mean, it's just there's a
level of respect.
Yeah, absolutely. And they both know that they're facing a quality opponent. So let's take a look at the South first in 7A. Both of these will get started on Wednesday. Auburn and Central Phoenix City will get started at 4:30 Central Time. Okay, that's 4:30 Central. I know Phoenix City is on Eastern Time Zone. Number 6, the Auburn Tigers. They come in at 27-10. They finished runner-up in that Area 4 to Central Phoenix City.
But won the series.
That's where I was headed in just a second. Auburn was able to defeat Fairhope last week in 3 games at home. They are traveling to the number 1 ranked Central Phoenix City Red Devils. Central Phoenix City obviously won that area, but as Austin just said, in the regular season area meeting, Auburn was able to take 2 of 3 from Central, giving Central 2 of their 3 losses on the year. The other came from a team from Georgia. So it's the only in-state losses that Central has suffered all year. As I mentioned, Central comes in with a record of 37-3, and they just run through the playoffs business as usual. Last week, they were able to sweep a very good Baker team by scores of 5-0 and 12-2. Central Phoenix City is also ranked the number 6 team in the country, according to our latest Prep Baseball Top 50 across the country. Again, this one gets started Wednesday, 4:30 Central. Again, that's Central Time. Man, it's going to be exciting, no doubt about it. One that you plan to be at.
Don't plan to. I will be at.
I hear you. So tell us about some of those guys to be looking out for, both teams.
Yeah, starting with Auburn last week in that Game 1 win, led offensively by Tanner Waldrop, their first baseman, Auburn commit, their senior. He was 3 for 4 with a home run and 3 RBIs. Seth Payne, their shortstop, was 2 for 4 with an RBI. Catcher Ryan Sinclair was 2 for 3 with a double and an RBI. Outfielder Braden Fox was also 1 for 2 with a double and 2 walks. J.B. Upton in the leadoff spot, a freshman, reached base. It was 1 for 1 with an RBI and a walk and scored 3 times. And then on the mound, right-handed pitcher, outfielder Michael Daniel, headed to Jack State, went 5 2/3, allowed just 4 hits, gave up 3 runs and 6 strikeouts. And then behind him, Killian Blackman, right-handed pitcher, senior, who's headed to Huntington. Blackman went 1 1/3, gave up no hits, no runs, no walks, and no strikeouts. So was very efficient behind Daniel on the back end in Game 1. In Game 2, Auburn got out to a 6-0 start in the through 2 innings. Fairhope, I was on the way back to Auburn, and Fairhope just kept chipping away, and then in the bottom of the 6th, they were able to take the lead 8-6, I believe, and then Auburn answered with 2 runs at the top of the 7th. Fairhope was able to walk it off on a single in the bottom of the 7th to force that Game 3. The Game 3 that I was actually at, it got started early with first inning 2-run home run by outfielder Michael Daniel, kind of set the tone offensively for Auburn. Behind him, First baseman Tanner Waldrop, who just talked about, headed to Auburn, added an RBI double. And then in the next at bat, Seth Payne, their shortstop, added another RBI double to get to their 4 runs. And then once they got to 4 runs, it seemed much bigger than what the deficit was for Fairhope, because Harrison Geiger was as advertised. We've been hearing, how good he's been. He hadn't thrown many innings, but he's, upper 80s fastball, big 6'3", 215 pounder. Threw a 7-inning, I think, shutout or 1 run against Central Phoenix City in their game 3. And man, he was very good. Was 86, 88, touched to 89, commanding his breaking ball in the zone and made it real tough changing speeds against Fairhope. He's really good as a game 3 starter for the Tigers. Looking at Central Phoenix City, in game 1, just handled business as usual. I think they won 5-0. Emery on in the leadoff spot was 2 for 4 with a double and 2 runs scored. DH right-handed pitcher Hunter Whippert, senior, who's headed to Chat Valley, was 2 for 2 with the run scored. And then on the mound, left-handed pitcher Cam Norton, a sophomore southpaw, went 5 innings, gave up 4 hits, no runs, and 2 strikeouts. And then behind him, right-handed pitcher Logan Clark went 2 innings, gave up 1 hit and no runs. And then in game 2, the Red Devils kind of flexed their offensive firepower and got to show off that new light show behind a big-time home run.
That was a bomb, wasn't it?
It was. He was Sam Brown, uncommitted 2025, was 2 for 3 with a double, a home run and 2 RBIs and a walk. Hunter Whippert, again, went 3 1/3, gave up 3 hits, 2 runs, and struck out 5. And then at the plate, he was 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs. Kason Page added a double and an RBI. Chris Kelly added a double and 2 RBIs. Briggs Cameron drove in 2 runs. Cooper Kehoe had a double and an RBI. So 1 through 9, they're getting contributions. And then closing out the game behind Whippert was Brody Stamp, a right-handed pitcher. He went 1 2/3, gave up 1 hit, no runs, no walks, and had 1 strikeout. Man, I've been saying that I'm picking Auburn coming into this matchup, and I'm having some doubts, or not doubts, having some second thoughts. This series is at Central Phoenix City. In that area series, Central Phoenix City won the first game of their area series, and then Auburn is able to win games 2 and 3 at home.
Go ahead.
It just feels like Auburn is playing for something much bigger than themselves right now, with Matt Semo retiring at the end of the season. A longtime head coach for the Auburn Tigers, has won state championships.
Do it.
I know who you're picking then.
100%. Do it.
I'm gonna stick with my pick. I'm gonna go with the Auburn Tigers to go on the road. I'm gonna go with Auburn. Give me Auburn.
I'm gonna go Central Phoenix City, and you mentioned it, at home. Central Phoenix City doesn't lose at home very often. I know that
they lost at home all year.
Well, amen. That's a dumb statement for me to say, but they hadn't lost much at all. And we've said it. That is just what Central Phoenix City does. Now, on the flip side of that, this Auburn team has hit their stride at the right time. There is no doubt about it. This Auburn team can very well win 2 of 3 from Central again, as they've done earlier in the year. You mentioned it, playing for Coach Semo, a great ambassador, representative of baseball across the state of Alabama. Whether his last games are this weekend or whether his last games are next week at Oxford, Jacksonville, he's had a tremendous career. And, kudos to the Auburn players for, getting, letting him go out in a good manner, regardless. And it could be a state championship. We don't know. It could be done, tomorrow. It could go on another week, win a state championship. But Central, they're so tough. They're gritty. They just win. They just win. They're 37-3. You mentioned earlier they won that first game 11-5 at home, lost to Auburn on the road 8-5 in game 2, and then Geiger was able was they lost 3-1 in game 3. So, man, I'm telling you, this is just this one has. I mean, it's going to be electric. It's going to be it's going to be a jam-packed house. I'm sure that it will be high intense, no doubt about it. But I've got to go with Central Phoenix City. So we'll split that one. And then our last one, we'll move up north for the 7A. Much like, as we've already said, much like the two area foes from area 4, in Central Phoenix City and Auburn, you've got the city of Madison. They are buzzing this week as both of their high schools are in the Final Four. They will be facing off. This one begins tomorrow. If I am unable to get away in time to make it to Oxford tomorrow, which that's my plan, but if I'm not, then I will be at Bob Jones and James Clemens. Let's take a look at these teams. James Clemens was ranked for a large percentage of our season. They dropped out the last week when they did lose the 3 games to Bob Jones in area. So they finished right outside of our top 10. They're the runner-up in area 8, as we mentioned. They come in with a 31-11 record after sweeping Hoover last week on the road at Hoover. They won by scores of 10-8 and 8-5. Obviously, putting up 18 runs on that Hoover pitching staff is pretty impressive. They will be on the road, and again, on the road is like 5 or 6 miles. They'll be on the road at Bob Jones. Bob Jones is currently ranked number 2, right behind Central Phoenix City. Bob Jones is ranked, I think, 14th in the country in the recent prep baseball top 50 across the country. They come in with a record of 40-7 after an impressive 3-game area win, or area, excuse me, a 3-game state playoff series win over number 3 Thompson last week. They won game 1, lost game 2, 7-6, and then they were able to sort of assert themselves in game 3. They won 7-1. That 7-1 score, they scored 6 in the second inning, and then they gave it to Jack Shaw and gave the ball to Jack Shaw, and he just he was in complete control throughout that start. That 7-1 score, that was a pretty comfortable margin for them, the way that he was throwing. But man, again, this one's going to be crazy. I saw pictures this morning from Bob Jones's Twitter account. They've got bleachers all the way down the line. They can bring in all the bleachers they want to. They're not going to be able to seat everybody. It's going to be standing room out behind right field. Tell us about the players involved in this one.
Yeah, starting with James Clemens, and I was listening.
Hey, before I say something to you, I do need to let you know.
Did you get fed?
What's that?
Did you get fed last week?
I'm going to go to that in just a minute. I'm going to go to that in just a second. I've got something else. But just so you know, I found out last week that Bob Jones listens to our podcast at practice. and last week when I took Thompson, I think they recorded it and played it over and over and over and over, because I think I said something like, "Give me the Warriors." And they played it and played it and played it. So, man, hey, kudos to them, man. So you might want to watch what you say here, okay? Because it could be played at practice.
They'll like what I have to say.
Okay, all right.
But I listened to Coach Smith talk this morning on radio. And
Coach Johnson. Yep.
Yeah, and Coach Johnson. Listening to Coach Smith talk, he was talking about how they're facing this is a completely different offense from last week. Thompson being able to bang the ball around the yard, they can score runs when they step in the box. They just have that ability to. But James Clemens is a little bit different, more of a scrappy kind of hard nose, move the ball around, take advantage of errors or miscues, and James Clemens, they've shown the ability. Last week against Hoover, Hoover didn't. I don't think they made some errors defensively, and James Clemens was able to capitalize. And kudos to them. And then on the mound, James Clemens has gotten, a few seniors who have really stepped up and thrown the majority of the innings. Last week in game 1 for James Clemens against Hoover, Hayden Markford in the 3-hole was 2 for 3 with 2 RBIs and scored twice. Outfielder David Sharp in the 9-hole was 2 for 4 with an RBI and a run scored. Ben Graves.
That guy's a stud.
Yeah. Ben Graves had 2 RBIs as well. Francisco Ramirez, their shortstop, had a hit and an RBI. Jesse Eisensee, playing second base for them, had an RBI and scored twice as well. And then the 3 arms that threw in game 1, Matthew Drinkwater getting the start, Mason Bush coming in the middle innings, and then giving it to Caden McComb in the 6th and the 7th, and was able to do enough and make enough pitches to close out that game 1 win. And then in game 2, Carson Lucier at the top of the order was 2 for 3 with an RBI. He scored 3 times. Jesse Eisensee again had another RBI. Ben Graves, another RBI. And then Luke Davenport, their senior right-handed pitcher who's headed to Auburn, finally seems to be back healthy.
Yep. Went
6 innings, gave up 5 hits, 4 runs, but struck out 8 hitters. And then once again, the Jets gave the ball to Caden McComb in the 7th. He went 1 inning, gave up 1 hit and 1 run, but that was it. And that was, that allowed James Clemens to close it out and win that 2-run game in game 2. The Jets, and going into this series, the Jets know what they have in front of them. And being able to beat Hoover, that should only be able to boost their confidence going into this series. Looking at Bob Jones last week against Thompson in game 1, Braden Booth was Braden Booth. He went 6 innings, gave up 6 hits, 3 runs, and 7 strikeouts against that Thompson offense. And then he added a bomb to center field.
Yes,
that was awesome. And then behind him, Zachary Johnson, their catcher, junior, who's headed to Alabama, was 2 for 3 with 2 RBIs. Gresham Baker was 2 for 3 with a double and 2 runs scored. Dylan Atkins had an RBI and came in the 7th and got an out and a strikeout. And then Jack Shaw came in game 1 or it came in at the end of game 1 and got the last 2 outs for Bob Jones. They dropped that game 2. They made it interesting late in game 2. Got it to 1 run in the 7th, but ultimately lost.
Tanner Hermish 2-run bomb.
Yeah. And then that forced the game 3 that you were at, obviously. Jacob Pearl, a senior infielder who's headed to Montevallo, was 1 for 3 with an RBI, a walk, and 2 runs scored. Braden Booth again had a hit, an RBI, a walk, and a run scored. Zachary Johnson added 2 RBIs as well. Reese Cato, a senior first baseman, had 2 hits. Robert Chapman had a single and a run scored. Miles Hammonds also had a single and a walk and a run score. And then the star of the show really was Jack Shaw. Junior right-handed pitcher was up to 87, I think. But was, went 7 innings, complete game, gave up 3 hits, just 1 run, 3 walks, and just 1 strikeout. Was pitching to contact and mixing speeds. And to give up just 1 run against that offense, there aren't many pitchers that have done that this season. So, and then Tanner Hermish throwing in game 2 has been really good, and just that ran into that offense last week that there's no shame.
1 or 2 big swings is what happened.
Really that one big swing, that grand slam. But he's throwing the ball well too. So they've got three real starters in their rotation. I'm going with Bob Jones. The Patriots seem to be not the easy option, but I mean they've getting to 40 wins. I don't care who you're playing, and they've played some really good teams. Getting to 40 wins is extremely impressive. And you look at James Clemens, also they have 31 wins. Look at that.
I saw him last week, and guess where he was? He was out there where they were cooking.
Oh, man.
He was getting some free food, weren't you, Cade?
I'm going to go with Bob Jones. Just the star power the Patriots have. They can beat you offensively, or if they're not able to, put up a lot of runs, their pitching led by Braden Booth is good as well. Give me the Patriots in what's going to be just a incredible scene in Madison. Going to be a great playoff atmosphere. Both these teams are well coached. Coach Smith with Bob Jones, and then Coach Johnson, Johnny Johnson with James Clemens, 2 of the best in the business, two friends of, we consider friends, great supporters of what we do. But I'm going to go with Bob Jones here in this rematch.
I'm going to say this. I'm going to give you the scores. I'm going to give you the scores from this from their area series earlier in the year. Bob Jones was able to win game 1 6-4, but that game was 3-3 going into the 6th inning. Okay. Game 2, Bob Jones sort of asserted themselves. They won 6-1. I think they scored a couple in one inning early and a couple another inning early. You know, they won 6-1. They didn't kill James Clemens. I mean, you know, they earned that win. And then in game 3, and I know there's a little bit of an asterisk by game 3 because it did not mean anything, but both of them played their starters because they both want to win in this rivalry game, regardless if it meant anything or not. They both played their starters. They both threw their guys. Shaw, I believe, threw in game 3. Bob Jones won that game 4-3. I mean, so two of the three games were really, really tightly contested. And the other one was a 6-1 game. That's a couple swings here, a couple swings there. You mentioned it, man. These two guys that lead these programs do a great job. You know, I went to Bob Jones last week, and I've got to share this with you. Went to Bob Jones, man, and they had me a reserve spot right behind the plate, man. Always take care of me. So I woke up
They had you?
Hold up. I walk up to the table to go sit, and I see there's a name placard, and it said reserved for David Sharp. But last week, I picked, remember I said, give me the Warriors. And so last week, when I got up there, instead of saying David Sharp, let me find it. Yep. They marked me out and put Austin Sharp because you picked the Patriots. But then I turned it over and it said, welcome back to the Bob. Thanks for all you do, Bob Jones Baseball. Man, that was awesome. I loved it.
Funny.
And by the way, they fed me. And my wife said the best barbecue sandwich she's ever had anywhere at any restaurant. Chad Martin, his crew up there cooking. That was some great food.
She even got a charcuterie board.
She got a charcuterie board with Prep Baseball Alabama on it. That was awesome. And I picked against them last week. I've got to go with the Patriots this week. Not because they fed me, not because they crossed my name out on my reserve seat, but man, this is a team that they're. I mean, I said it last week that they had built some depth in their pitching staff, and that's been on display. Or maybe it was 2 weeks ago when I said that. They have built. They've always been able to bang the ball around the yard. They've now got some depth in their pitching staff. And I'm not saying that they didn't previously, but they've built some depth. Like last week, I mean, they go to Dylan Atkins for a lefty-lefty matchup. Then they bring in Kai Kuroda. I mean, they're able to mix and match matchups, lefty-lefty, righty-righty. I've got to go Bob Jones, but I'm going to tell you this, man. James Clemens, you mentioned it. That's a tough team to coach against because they can do so many little things, and you've got to be cognizant of everything going on because they're gonna safety squeeze, they're gonna hit and run, they're gonna slash, they're gonna do all of those things, and that's how they've produced runs all year long. I even talked to Coach Johnson about that at our North Alabama Showdown about how they are manufacturing runs, moving the ball around, making things happen, and it has worked for them to 31 wins. But Bob Jones is talented as anybody across the state. I have to go with Bob Jones here to advance to the state finals next week.
Boy, we are going to be on a loop in the James Clemens locker room.
Hey, those are good dudes, man. I mean, again, we could care less who wins any game. We really could. We just enjoy going and watching, being fed if people will feed us, and going to watch good games. We legitimately, what we do, 14 games we just talked about, and we don't care who wins any of the 14, but we just like to get it out there, talk, but man, that'll wrap us up for this week and our selection and trying to see who's going to win. We'll check back next week again and see who was right, see who was wrong. We'll be here for it regardless if we're right or wrong. Just a quick note for next week. On Monday morning of next week, we will be headed over to Oxford because the first games begin at 1 o'clock on Monday. And then we will obviously be out and about all throughout Oxford and Jacksonville all of next week. So our state finals podcast will be next Sunday night. All right. And we don't know a time yet. Just keep checking back on our social media channels, but it will be next Sunday night. Cause again, Monday we'll be headed to the state finals to be there all week. Austin, you got anything else for our viewers?
I'm good.
We appreciate you jumping on. Thanks so much for making this fun and worth our time. And we hope your teams win. And hopefully, if we don't see you this week at the park, maybe we'll see you next week at either Jack State or Chocolaco Park. Thanks for checking in, and we will talk to you later.